confidence in the things that I know. I have enough wisdom to see the logic will be shown. I got one chance to show you what I got. I got one chance to show I'm confident or not. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, and the fools are running away. It's not what you say, it's only what you can prove. You better watch your step, you better mind your P's and Q's. You got one chance, show me what you got. You got one chance, show you confident or not. Don't get caught in the matrix of all of these fakers. Society's spinning, and I'm just here living on the ground. Self-evident reason, deductions and conclusions, logically thinking, and the fools are running away. You're flipping over backwards to show me where you think you are. Your model dictates that you never see too far. Shrinking in the distance, you can do fuck all with an angle, and the fools are running away.
And we are live. Welcome everybody. Although I guess everybody else is somewhere else. Welcome. Wow, it's got a bit of a weird one tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe some downtime after all of the discussions that took place in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I think there's other people
Take a
doing
breather.
other things, proving stuff
Could be.
in other places. Okay, well, it seems like the big run for the end, finishing off this end of this sort of financial year is it's going to be a bit well, I don't know. Let's see whether we can build up a bit of I don't know, whatever. Okay, right, so look at this. I got a tweet. With Discord and everything's going really weird. There you go. This is a guy called Sly Sparkane. He has a bending water level test that no doubt should be highlighted. I think we might go over at some point. Although, it seems like nobody's really bothered about proof. But hey, we'll still do the videos anyway. Fuck 'em. He says he considers myself an expert in the field of flat earth claims and the folk who makes them. Does anybody know of any of these flat earth claims? Because Sly Sparkane's an expert in it.
Is it maybe the sextant thing? Is that one?
I haven't got a clue. I don't know what flat earth claims are.
I don't either.
One of the things that we've been led to, I don't know. I mean, who do you believe about what flat Earth claims are?
Well, I personally, I would tend to believe the people that talk about their 3D Earth. I mean, their 2D Earth. Sorry, not 3D Earth.
It
Because
says
wouldn't that be like flat Earth thing? If
he
you believe
puts
it's
it.
2D.
An expert is somebody who has a broad and deep understanding and competence in terms of knowledge, skill, and experience through practice and education in a particular field. Well, this field is flat Earth.
Can you get a degree in it? Is that what he's saying?
Slice Barkane has got knowledge, skill, and experience through practice and education in flat Earth.
Wow.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just goes to show that I think these flat Earthers are Flat Earth Society. And Slice Barkane's definitely one of those sort of people that I would have gone with. And here's another one, this one. You've got to like this one. So has everybody heard of, since we're talking about Flat Earth Society, F.E. Dogma and the twin tangent paradox? Conundrum. Sorry, it's not a paradox, is it? Until you realise it. You have to have a model to make it a paradox. And we were talking about Ruhif. I'm pretty sure I was talking about Ruhif the other night. And his angle. The one he's defending for Ranty. Well, the one he helped Ranty put a ruler on a picture.
Yes.
Well, the one that Nathan Oakley and QE went crazy about.
Yes.
Well, F.E. Dogma has made this meme. It's got a Try Thinking video, December the 21st, 2020. He's saying. And it's showing the angle there. As we said the other day, that's an angle at your eye. So it can't be measured. It's not an angle that can be measured at all. To which he says here, and that's at December the 21st, 2020. And it says, outlined in red, the constant K entirely depends on the magnitude of the angle B, this angle here. And then this is the meme that I did that said, this angle does not equal these lines, Ruhif. To which he's crossed out not and says, does. That angle there, the one that can't be measured, is the same as these lines, which means, effectively, it's the same as every line all the way along here from 0 to infinity. So that one angle is equivalent to all of the lines all the way across. Which is why we said you can do fuck all with an angle. Especially when you want to represent it as a line, because it can be every line from 0 to infinity. Because two straight lines cannot enclose a space. Geometrically. And F.E. Dogma here says that that angle does equal all of those lines. So that's what he's helping Nathan Oakley. So if Nathan Oakley wants to know, what can you do? You can name every line that angle. There you go. That's what you can do with it. Not only can you name the angle, you can name every line. Also, that angle within Ruhif and F.E. Dogma. Supporting Nathan Oakley. And then we have another guy who's called Jesse Gordon. He was supported by Jesse Kozlowski. And I say, he's got a picture. It's got my name on it as though I've measured something, but I haven't measured anything. And I asked him a question. Can you verify the level was either set up correctly or was calibrated correctly? And he says, because he's got a picture off the internet, right? He's found a picture on a YouTube video. They found quite a few pictures, this Jesse character. And this is one of them, right? So I said, if you can falsify one of these measurements, the non-measurements, because I know that no measurement was made in one of these pictures. He says, this is really hilarious. There was a time when you were boasting about your calibrated auto level and raking me over the coals for using instruments that didn't have a current cal sticker, even though you had no evidence that anything was wrong with them. Apart from the fact that he had a picture above the horizon above the crosshairs. But Jesse doesn't think that's a thing, because Jesse Gordon, this is the Jesse Gordon that's measured the horizon above the crosshairs, which is normally a flat earth claim, or sorry, it's a globe earth claim that flat earthers say. Globers claim that flat earthers say that the horizon rises to eye level, which it obviously doesn't. But Jesse Gordon is one of the people that's pictured it above the horizon. He's proud of it too. We're going to go over another video of George later, God rest his soul. He said, now you're arguing that your own instrument and or technique was all bungled up and not to be trusted. I'll remind you again. I asked the question, can you verify the level was either set up correctly or was calibrated correctly? Not too much of a claim, a question. Ask him. He's the one that's saying he's got measurements and stuff that I know aren't measurements. But he says he's interpreting that that's an argument against my own instrument. A question, can you verify that the level was either set up correctly or was calibrated correctly? I can't. I was just wondering whether he could, since he's the one that's using it for his claim. And he says, and you're the one who actually claims to have training in surveying. You shared copies of your surveying certificate. Thank you very much. Yes, I have got a certificate on the wall. And like I said, I can't verify that his picture was level. And I asked him, can he verify that the level in his picture, the one he got off the internet, was level? And he says, now you're changing your story and saying you didn't set up your equipment and that it wasn't calibrated and that your measurements can't be trusted. One, didn't make a measurement. Two, I asked the question, can you verify that the level was either set up correctly or calibrated correctly? Jesse Gordon, he's a nobody on Discord channels, but he thinks he makes all sorts of videos and stuff. He's making some really ridiculous claims. He said, which is it? Are a qualified surveyor with good tools, or are you an untrustworthy, unqualified chap with broken tools? No, Jesse Gordon, I'm a person with a question. And that question goes, can you verify that level was either set up correctly or calibrated correctly? Simple question. Simple question, never to be answered. Jesse Gordon, thank you very much. Now, as you might know, that this stuff's going to be changing around here. Not so much the format of what we do, but my attitude to this thing. I'm going to be, well, let's say I'm going to have to be more active. And I've purposely held a lot of stuff back because I've not been ready to be as active, and I've been learning some stuff. And we do have proofs, and we do have logic on our side, and the ability to formulate arguments, and the ability to want to learn. In fact, I think I'm going to be heavily focusing on the lost tools of learning, the trivium. It seems to be quite hard for people to understand. Hard for me to understand at first, so I need to go over it. I'm going to attempt to put it all in argument form. Let everybody see the arguments that I've been making over the last few years. A lot of it's been hidden away, but I believe we have a very simple formulation of arguments to be able to put together. And it's built around some of the people that we've talked about and talked with that have told us some really strange things. One of them I'm going to go over tonight. Let me get this video for you guys. And this is one of the songs that some of the lyrics in this will be very well, I don't know, let's see whether you can listen to them. This is Nug Life, Buster, quite a bit ago. Let me see how many years ago. It says 1 year. 337 views, look at that. That's good. That's my number. Right, so again, we'll go over this. This one's called George in the Geometric Conundrum. God rest his soul. So you may hear some familiar voices in this.
It's a tangent to a straight line.
Blue, have you banned Mobius?
Probably.
It's a tangent to a straight line.
Yeah, it's measurable.
We deal with trolls gone crazy.
It's a tangent to a straight line. Hold on 1 second. Let me just say something. It's a tangent to a straight line which is on a curved surface.
Bollocks.
We deal with trolls gone crazy.
Complete enough to bollocks.
I'm all about that nerd life, getting kicked from every server I know.
Blue, have you banned Mobius?
We
Probably.
know these trolls are gonna lie and I'll escape for the show.
Excellent. So the surface is a two-dimensional object. Thank you.
Nerd life, baby.
Please describe a curve. It's very simple. Go.
These trolls gone crazy.
So that's basically what I said before, that you could say that it's just a line, any line. It's a bit more complex when you try to define it rigorously, but you can think of it just as any line. Can also be a straight line.
A plane is a surface that has no curvature to it whatsoever.
Hydrostatic pressure is the answer that will end.
Twin boat, that's a
Can I
nutsack.
just get that? Paid NASA Shield, did you just say the nutsack drop proves the globe?
Yes, it does.
Proves to show these crazy people gonna recognize the knowledge that flows.
If level is horizontal, it's an infinite plane.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah? It has to be.
That's the only shape
It has
that
to be.
Logic can
That's
be
the only
that
shape
like
it can
the-
be.
take the water levels, don't curve.
Like DP, he says, level is a straight line on a horizontal plane.
wise man.
Geometric isn't necessarily the same as the geometry of the real world. Right? We want to model the real world geometrically, and you're not doing it correctly.
To a tangent, to a horizontal.
Kind of logic is the thinking that no one deserves.
Hold on one second. Let me just say something. It's a tangent to a straight line which is on a curved surface.
Yeah, it's gonna look super flat.
True.
You can demonstrate the Nooksack drop for us then, can you?
Oh, definitely, yeah. It works on a globe every time.
He's made several accusations which have been bollocks.
Frustrating day.
I'm gonna just say this: if you let it, things be frustrating, it'll frustrate you. If you just, just go with the flow, bro, no problem.
Yeah, you're not in my reality in my life. Things have been horseshit since the house burnt. A lot of inconveniences and other things that I have to deal with, but that's not your problem. Anyway,
Okay,
I have some
can I ask you a question?
diagrams here. No, just a minute. I have some diagrams here for unicorn Hawkeyes. He
Well
was
done.
asking for a diagram, and so go ahead, ask your question, and I can go ahead with this explanation on some diagrams here.
Yeah, because I wasn't even gonna go into your diagrams. But can I ask you? So if I cook two steaks, they're the same steak from the same cow, are they gonna taste the same?
I didn't quite get that. You have two steaks and you're doing what?
I'm gonna put two steaks on the grill, and I season both the
steaks, like
same. Yeah.
Steaks, you mean like beef?
Yeah. Meat. Yes.
Okay,
Food.
I thought maybe you're talking about steaks in the ground. We're talking about platters.
No. Nah. That's nonsense. Let's not talk about that right now. But that if I cook.
So you have
better yet,
two beef steaks on the grill. Now what?
Yeah. I season both the same way, and I eat mine. I send you yours, and I season them just the same way. Are we still eating the same steak?
No.
Why not?
They come from maybe the same piece of meat, but it's not the same steak. It might taste the same. It might look the same, but they're not the same.
Okay, I just wanted to pick your brain just a little bit. But you can go. I want to see your diagram. I'm going back on mute.
All right. Let's see, what the heck did I do? Okay, here we go. We'll put up the first diagram here. Sorry it took a while to do this because Paint is a horseshit piece of software to deal with. But anyway, let's look at this first diagram here. This is what I call Bev's concept of his water level. The blue is the water level pipes. We have 2, 4, we have 5 risers in which the, oh shit, something happened. Looks like I accidentally, oh well, there's pieces missing, but you get the idea here. Is Bev has, say, these 5 risers in his water level, and they go over, in his test, over 400 meters from A to B. So let's look at A. We're going to establish a horizontal. We're going to shoot a horizontal from A on outwards towards B. So in Bev's concept, this horizontal is going to intercept all the water heights and all these risers. They're all going to lie along this horizontal, which is a straight line. They're all going to be they're all at the same level. They're at the same elevation above the earth, all at the same height or the same level. So the horizontal from A will hit the water level at B. This is Bev's concept, and the red lines are perpendiculars to the earth, and they're at right, and they will intercept that horizontal shot from A in perpendiculars to that horizontal. This is the way Bev believes things behave. Now, as I as I see this. Is my audio not coming through? Sugar Cube is asking if I'm speaking.
No, you're speaking just fine. I mean, as long as you can you just like keep it like short?
I did. I'm ready for the next diagram now.
So no,
Okay.
so before you go to that, why don't you speak it as in this is what I think Bev is seeing, instead of saying that. Wait.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, I'm out of here.
Oh my God.
Hold on, George. Hold on. He doesn't realize what's going on today. Calm down.
Right, so the thing is here, we're on super special snowflake mode for George. I'm not talking because we know George is very, very susceptible at the moment. He's very super snowflakey. So any talking or commenting back to anything that George says gets George really upset and he leaves. And we're after talking to people, so we want George to talk. Redmond wasn't aware of it. That's why I hadn't said anything. We just wanted George. We want to get through to hear George's stuff about his opinion, because there aren't many people that do actually talk about this stuff. We have a geometric test, proof, if you will, but George is about to try and go over his understanding of it.
Reds, we've had an ongoing thing here. We're letting him finish his sentences. He's a little tired today.
I'll find another room.
Go ahead, George. Please
ask a question.
Continue.
You're more than welcome to ask questions after I describe this. I don't mind that. Okay, next diagram. The first diagram is how Bev believes things work. This next diagram here is how I believe things work. Now let's look at this. All right, we have the same water level, except now we're on a curved Earth, a curved spherical Earth. I don't care if you accept it or not. You just have to understand this is how I believe things to work on this type of an Earth, not a flat Earth, but a curve. All right, so we have our water level. We have the same type risers. The water pipe is following the Earth's surface, and we have the two ends at A and B. Now at A, again, we're at A, and we're going to shoot a horizontal out from A. The horizontal is perpendicular to a vertical line, the red line to the Earth, and it's shot out. Now what will happen on the curved Earth, this horizontal line is going to be parallel to a tangent to the Earth, but this is our horizontal line as seen from A extended out to B. And that horizontal line will overshoot the water level at B because of this so-called drop from tangent on the curved Earth. And as you see, as you go out from A, the difference between the horizontal line shot from A and the heights of the water levels gets greater and greater as you move out to B. The risers are all at the same elevation.
Wasn't me. I don't know what's going on there.
At the same level, or the same heights or elevations. Now, if we look at the perpendiculars to the Earth, the red lines, they're all perpendicular to the surface of the Earth, but they no longer intersect that.
He did say perpendicular. That's George said perpendicular. I know it's a bit hard to see these diagrams, but hopefully we might.
Horizontal line shot from A at a right angle. The angles change and get more and more acute, becomes much different from a 90-degree as you move out to B. All right, I'm done. That's the difference. So in Bev's case, he thinks that the line in the three metal risers, that the water heights all line up on the same horizontal, and I say no, they No, they don't. If I were to draw a horizontal on the three risers in the middle, they would not be coincident or parallel to the horizontal going between shot from A towards B. Okay. Any questions?
I have one. How
Can
would
I-
you do that?
Oh, go on.
I'm sorry.
I say, can I just point out first of all, George, that you haven't actually represented the test that we did in any way at all.
No, there aren't two. Just saying, this is how you believe at least one of your water levels would work. I know you have two water levels.
Yeah, but
and
there's
you're
only
overlapping them in the center.
There's
But I'm
only
just
four.
saying,
There's only 4 risers.
yes, it's fine. But the concept is there, is the fact that you think that the water level or the water heights in each of the risers line up with a straight line. And I'm showing you that in my concept of the earth, they do not.
Okay, just in your concept.
Yes.
Okay.
You've got your concept. I've got my concept.
Is that why you didn't represent the test properly? Because to show the shared straight line segment?
No, I only have so much time to draw these things, and it takes me a while with Jesus. It's illustrating the principle.
It just didn't look like you understood what the test was at all.
I know what the test is, but if you look...
Why didn't you show it like you did then?
Oh, my God. Beth, it just takes a long time to draw all these things proper. The thing is the concept is there. I'm showing you what you think the water levels...
Don't show me what I think, George.
I know what you think.
You don't know what I think, George.
You're telling me that the water heights in all the risers are going to line up with the same horizontal.
Don't
line
tell
up with
me
a straight
what
line
I think,
in
George.
Oh, jeez. Okay, never mind. Horizontal lines don't curve, sugar cookie. Jesus.
Didn't we do this? Didn't we do this yesterday? The diagram.
We did something similar, but it wasn't exactly the same diagram. You want the diagram from yesterday? I saved it.
Well, that's the one where you did them properly, both of them. You did the blue and you did the different colors.
Okay. Hold on, Montreal. We'll find it.
I don't know why you redid all this again.
That horizontal line, how would one, like, let's say I wanted to do my own test, how could I physicalize this? That's not the right word. How could I physically make some marks to represent that horizontal line?
Step at a time. Step at a time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to first accommodate Montreal here. Please be patient.
Well, it's all about SC, isn't it?
At this point it is, because he's the one that asked the question before you.
I'm just joking. Joke.
Oh, shoot. Maybe I didn't. Hold on. I thought I saved it. Maybe I didn't. Oh, sorry, Montreal. It doesn't look like I saved it. I thought I did.
It's okay, George. I just thought like it looked similar. You know, why redraw it when you already did it? But that's fine.
Can I ask a question,
No,
Bev?
I wanted to show the two different colors.
Yeah.
So, because I don't think I was around
Yeah.
at this point. But did George not think that drawing the test the way that you guys had done it would make a difference? I mean, he seems to say he just didn't have time to draw it properly.
Yeah.
And that he knew what your test was. Did he think that drawing drawing it correctly wouldn't make a difference somehow?
Well,
do we even know that?
Drawing the test correctly will show the proof geometrically. And obviously to George, that's the problem why he can't depict it properly. But more than that, what we were after was trying to get George to show what he thinks and to show his case, because it's easy for me to know what I think of my test, mine and Spot On's test, right? The realizing Euclid test. I know that because I can build it up. I need to know what other people think, and the hard part is to get other people talking about it, because they won't. Since George is gone, obviously, nobody else wants to talk about it either.
Right, yep.
So yeah, George was willing, at least, because this was, let's say, affecting George. George was coming round for a conversation. Then he was going back to Blue Marble Sciences HQ, talking to those guys and drawing. He was up all night drawing different diagrams and stuff that he could then come back over here to represent. George was trying to sort out what we call the horizontal paradox, and we've showed him that. And this is the lead up to it, because we've got this one. George and the double rodding, and George and realizing the dawn are gone. Three videos from George, and George is the only person that's ever tackled this sort of thing. Well, honestly, geometrically, you've got people who've tackled it, like I can spaghetti that, and other people that have attempted it, but this is the first attempt of a geometric understanding of the drop of the water level.
Well, Blue seems to think that wouldn't need to draw out the test the way that you guys did it anyway, because it doesn't work, no matter how you draw it. That's what Blue says anyway. Welcome, Blue.
So Blue's come in.
Yeah, he's in the chat.
It doesn't work no matter how you draw it. George's one, I would agree with you, yes, Blue. But when we'll go over it, we'll see which ones don't work and which ones you can actually achieve. I mean, at best, Blue, I've got a test that will prove the globe. Me, Bev. So thank you very much, Blue. If the test proves the globe, then the test proves the globe. Yay! Bev proves the globe. Like we say, everything that happens in reality will obviously prove the globe, because the globe is reality. So, the real globe. The one that well, we'll just have to work out how to draw the test out.
Concepts separately.
It did already work, Blue.
So that you first see it one way and then the other way. The trouble is when you try to put everything in one graphic, then it gets too busy and, it's hard to...
Got to sort the graphics out. It's
really
my job.
Understand everything that's going on. I try to keep my diagrams simple. I don't want them to be... Well, here's another diagram, but this isn't the one you were asking for, Montreal, but, it helps, maybe. I'll post it here.
Gods, what are you doing?
Oh, sorry, I thought it.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one. The double...
Yeah, right.
Hump.
This is what happens if you take an auto level and set it up at A and shoot towards B. It shoots over B, and then if you move the auto level at B and shoot towards A, you will sight over A. That's how I understand it to work on the curved Earth.
Right, so George has just pointed out here that how he understands it to work is with tilted sloping horizontals. Look, this one's tilting up this way and this one's tilting up this way. Wherever you are, George, as George understands it, tilting horizontals, and these intersection, what we call this is the equipotential angle of adjustment, the adjustment between a horizontal and a horizontal. When measured, the angle between two horizontals. Right here, George is depicting it. That's where it came from. Thank you very much, George. That's right, isn't it, Blue? There's no need to talk about my test here. Look at this, Blue. How George believes an auto-level arrangement set up with intersecting horizontals, and the angle between them, as everybody knows, is called the equipotential angle of adjustment. George draws it here. The horizontals are definitely straight lines that intersect at that point there, right in the center. Yeah, the consequences of being on a curved Earth are that horizontals don't act like they do in reality.
Well, you can check that out, whether or not that's true, whether what I'm telling you is the truth or not, Bev. All you have.
There you go. So the consequences of living on a curved Earth means that horizontals do not act like they do in reality. This is where I started to realize that reality, like the reality globe, these guys have strayed away from it. I mean, this definitely isn't reality. Although George may believe that's what is reality, he's very far wrong. Because that literally isn't what happens in reality.
What you do is take 2 points, say separate them a kilometer, set your auto level up, shoot a range pole at B, make a mark on it, move your auto level to B, sight the mark on your range pole at B, and shoot towards A and see if you hit A. On a flat Earth, you should hit A. On a curved Earth, you won't.
Could I not just put a plumb bob at the midpoint there and say, will those horizontals be perpendicular to the vertical?
Well, you're going to establish that with an auto level.
What? You've got a drawing there. Is that not an accurate drawing? It's just conceptual.
How are you going to do that? How are you going to tell? How are you going to tell something is perpendicular at right angles with an level?
Can something be perpendicular to both of those horizontals?
No.
No. Well, isn't that a disproof that that doesn't happen? Because horizontal and vertical are perpendicular.
Okay. Yes, that's fine if you can do that, Bill. But how are you going to establish looking through an
I just asked you at the minute, can you put a vertical there that is perpendicular to both of those horizontals?
No, you cannot.
No. There you go. So that's George admitting that in the center of that, he can't put a vertical that's perpendicular to the horizontals that he's drawn. Now, as everybody knows, vertical and horizontal are perpendicular. But George just said he can't do it. It's because it's his model. But in reality, you definitely could put a vertical there that would be perpendicular to the horizontal established at A or B. It doesn't really matter. I don't know how you could have a horizontal that starts at A and goes through B and C that isn't perpendicular to the vertical at B or C. But hey, this is George. George was a big, well, Blue Marble Sciences in there. He's a big, I think he was over at Blue Marble Sciences when he did this. So Blue Marble Science may have a hand in helping George do these models.
going to be my question. Oh, sorry.
Go on. Sorry, I was going to say, if you had another model, could you have a vertical there that it was perpendicular to?
Not for a curved surface.
See, not for a curved surface. So George can't even have another model where the perpendicular would be perpendicular at the midpoint on that.
I don't want to ruin it, but does he explain why the curved surface has anything to do with horizontal?
No.
No. Okay.
No, we were hoping that somebody else would have done it. I think Blue Marble has had a go at reciprocal zeniths. I think that's sort of what he's doing here, right? Forget about the zenith part. This is just the reciprocal horizontals, right? Equipotential angle of adjustment right in the centre. Blue Marble's talking about the zeniths, but I mean, George did it way before you, Blue. He did reciprocal horizontals with the intersection point at the centre. Sloping horizontals, actually.
Blue trying to piggyback off of George's work, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, Blue's gone for the old traditional, right? This is futuristic for George to be doing this sort of stuff, giving the secrets away a bit. Blue Marble likes to try and like a back door sort of.
Yeah, bit of regression.
Yeah.
Shall we say? Yeah. Okay, got it.
Don't forget, George and Blue work this sort of stuff out together. And Rumpus as well. George, Blue, and Rumpus.
You could do it for a
Quite
flat
a team.
surface. For your flat Earth, that would work, but not for a curved surface.
That'll do. Go on, Buster.
Well, the question is how do we determine whose reality is or whose concept is indeed reality? And I'm telling you, one way to do it is what I'm showing you here on this latest diagram. Take another level, set it up at A, aim towards B, make a mark on a pole at B, move your other level to B, sight that mark, and shoot back towards A and see if you hit A where you started. Or if it shoots over A. If it shoots over A, you know you're on a curved Earth. If it hits A, you know you're on a flat Earth.
So if you know if you're on a curved Earth, if your horizontals are sloping. I think that's what George is saying. I think Blue did a test, or Blue piggybacked on other people's.
We don't have any tests. Nobody's done any tests to prove that east to west is the same as north to south, because we only have
East to
objects
west isn't the same as north to south. They're completely perpendicular to each other, so they can't really be the same.
Yeah, but not above the ground, surely.
What?
You can talk about.
Yeah, above the ground or wherever you are, really, it doesn't really matter. North and south are perpendicular.
No, the point is if we see this aberration or whatever like that of the sun rising and the moon rising in the east and setting in the west, we don't see anything rising in the north or the south. So therefore, we can't.
This is George talking about auto levels and intersecting horizontals. Nothing to do with the sun or the moon, or north or south, east or west. This is just George going over. Can you? Are you listening or not? And we are live right now on YouTube as well. Also, if you click on my thing, you'll be able to hear the video that we're going over. He's a very famous celebrity, was, God rest his soul. He was the guy that spoke for the surveyors, the role-playing surveyors that have left the arena and since George is gone, there is nobody. Nobody to support the surveying side and claims for the dogmatic globe model. Apart from George, but I mean, hopefully somebody will be able to pick up this. This is what we call the horizontal paradox, if you're not aware of it. George is trying to solve it right now.
Easy test.
What if I
I've been
want a
telling people
physical?
to do this for 2 years, and nobody has yet done it.
Nobody's done it.
What if
Nobody's done it? It's a test that George has got going for 2 years, and nobody's done it yet.
if I want physicality to that line?
Huh? What do you mean?
Like you've drawn the lines and they're conceptual on a drawing, that's fine. But I want to bring physicality to that line.
You want to physically establish that line?
Yeah. I want it to be on something so I can reference it.
You're going to have to make a very straight, long ruler. This has been the whole problem that we've had. This is kind of the concept that you have with Brian Mullen's forced line, building some sort of a straight line fence. I mean, if you can do it, great, do it. I'm not sure how you can do it.
So you couldn't do it with an auto level? You couldn't just...
Yes, I just said. You go to A, you set up your auto level, and you sight towards B.
I don't want to sight. I don't want to look that far through it. I want to put like something in the ground and put like a line on it. Physicality.
Okay. Yeah. Stakes all along between A and B, and have your helper get 2 cell phones. You're sitting at A with the odd level. You're sighting towards B, and you have your helper sit stakes in the ground, and you tell him to move his pointer or his mark, his pen, up or down. And when it sights horizontal on the other level, you tell him to make a mark on that post. Then move to the next post. Do the same thing. You sight and you tell him to move that pen up or down when it's coincident and is sighted by the crosshair of the other level to make a mark on that post. Put as many posts as you want between A and B and do that. There you have your physicality.
But what happens if you can't? If it gets too far where you can't see with the auto level?
Then you're screwed.
What about if we were to use LIGO for a straight line, right? Would that be all right?
Sure. But I don't know how you're going to get there. It's
Would
a very secure site.
Would that be a like horizontal on being on the XY plane?
Yes.
So though both of those on the XY plane would be classed as horizontals.
What? You mean the LIGO tubes?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both horizontals at right angles to one another. Say your point A.
Okay. So. Okay. George has just stated that both of the arms of LIGO are both on the horizontal plane. Thank you very much, George. Well, so point A, well, can we imagine if there's some perpendiculars?
Perpendiculars to what?
To the straight line that's established by that tube.
Sure, yeah. All you have to do, if you want the perpendiculars, you take a plumb line with you and you hang it and see where the perpendicular should be.
Perpendicular to that plane, though, right? Perpendicular to that plane.
The plane.
Like Buster was saying, he wanted
things
to
like that plane. You got to be specific here.
The plane that it is on, LIGO. Holy
LIGO
shit,
is
George! He was talking about making a straight line. I just said, what would LIGO be? Would that be that straight line? That horizontal plane that Buster was talking about establishing physically?
Each LIGO tube is horizontal and straight from a given point at the center of the experiment.
His mic was always bad when he was saying that, so I'm not so sure what you can hear him saying. But each arm's on a horizontal plane, he said.
Tubes going out at right angles. Each of those tubes horizontal and straight from that point where they they intersect one another at right angles. It goes out at right angles in two different directions, and those are horizontal. Yes.
That's the only place they're horizontal, is at the apex?
That's correct.
Wow. Did you hear that? They're both of the arms are straight arms, and they're on a horizontal plane. But the only place they are horizontal, according to George, is at the apex. Now, that can't really be true, because FE Dogma has done the twin tangent conundrum for the globe earthers. There's can you see the contradiction? Anybody else see the contradiction? Or I'm guessing I need to point this out. Try thinking it's going to be pointing out contradictions within everybody's knowing. Just imagine two arms of the straightest thing in the universe being horizontal, straight, but only horizontal at a point. I mean, that may sound like a massive contradiction. And you may be wondering, why is he doing that? Why would George do that? It's because George, God rest his soul, has or had a model, a dogmatic model that obviously doesn't comport with reality. He didn't have the real globe to deal with. He had this fantasy model at sloping horizontals and stuff. Horizontal at a point. We noticed it a fair few years ago. Blue said though that the tangent was along one side of one arm, midway point. I think is Mobius still in here? He's our LIGO guy.
The tangent to the Earth would be at the apex.
The tangent of the LIGO tubes is at the apex.
There is no tangent to the tubes. The tubes are straight.
The tubes are straight. There is no tangent, apart from the twin tangent conundrum that FE Dogma set for all of them. I'll have to remember this. George and the geometric conundrum.
And they are tangent lines at the apex. You could think of the LIGO tubes as being tangents to the Earth emanating from their intersection.
We can think of it as, but it's not really.
That's what it is. That's what it is in reality. Those tubes are tangents to the Earth established from their intersection point. Wow. Those horizontals are not tangent to anywhere else on the Earth other than where they meet at their intersection.
Okay, so they're perpendiculars to those tubes.
Tubes are perpendicular to one another.
Yeah, but inside those tubes, right?
What about inside?
Well, no, I'm thinking more like to. Weird. That laser beam.
Oh, yeah, okay. You could make perpendiculars, but they will not agree or not be parallel to plane lines if you hold.
So if you were to have perpendicles, or what do you call them, pendulums, hanging in there, you're saying they wouldn't be hanging.
It would not be hanging perpendicular to that laser beam, no.
Oh, that's interesting.
They would be canted inward a little bit. They'd be all pointing towards the center of the Earth, which would make them off a right angle. They would not be a laser beam shining down the center of those tubes. Your perpendiculars would not intersect that laser beam at right angles. Now, the only place
Wouldn't you
your
need
pendulum,
that, though, in order to make the beam bounce backwards and forwards?
The only place where a plumb line would hang perpendicular to the laser beam would be at the point of intersection of the two tubes where they meet.
Wow. There you go. That's a claim. George. Always the perpendicular, the vertical and horizontal are perpendicular. He said both of the arms led in a horizontal plane. But now he's stating that perpendicularity will only occur at one place, which is obviously a fantasy. Right? He's being led by a dogmatic model. Oh, at the splitter. That's unfortunate, isn't it? How did he do that then? How did they get that?
Well, they get what?
Well, in LIGO, aren't they meant to have that beam bouncing backwards and forwards like 250 odd times or whatever? When obviously when it's operational and running.
No, I haven't really looked into the particulars of the LIGO operation.
Obviously,
I can't go into
obviously.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It's only one, isn't it meant to be one of the most exact pieces of equipment?
What do you care if the laser beam is shown
that they've got?
It's just going to be backwards. Who cares? All you're doing is establishing a straight line.
It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter.
Well, what is your point about bouncing a laser beam versus having it just shoot one way? I don't get what that is.
It's meant to be dead straight, right? That's the point. Like,
yes, it is
Buster
dead
was
straight.
on about physicalizing a straight.
Yeah. Well, one way you could do it is have your mirror at the end of the tube. You bounce your laser beam, and you adjust the angle of the laser beam so that the return beam is coincident with the forward beam. Then you know it's straight. Right?
Adjust the angle of the... You can't, though, because it goes through a splitter, doesn't it? Can't be messing about with that laser beam.
You're being so obtuse. I mean, what's your point here? We've got a straight line within the tube. You establish a straight line down the center of the tube, and you want to know whether or not a plumb line is going to hang perpendicular to that straight line.
No. I was an extra aside that. It was Buster that was asking you about physicalizing a straight. What was it, Buster?
I just wanted to like any one of those lines he's theorized that's on paper, just putting physicality to those lines.
Yeah, you can do that. Like I said, put stakes in the ground, as you said, and just put marks where the outer level says it's supposed to be horizontal.
But you don't think there's like a limit to how far you could look down through there to have somebody make a mark?
Yeah, of course. It depends on the optics, the power of your scope, and how easily you can read the marks on your pole. That's what determines the working range of an auto level.
There you go. George, listen to the experts. Although he's not an expert, and he's not even around anymore, God rest his soul. But he's telling you, the working range is as far as you can see, which is one of the tests that we did. Strangely enough, it's one of the tests that one of the guys took a picture of. And they use it. They've drawn a load of lines all over it and put a load of writing on it. Blue Marble scientists.
Can you back that up and play that again? Because I don't think he says it's as far as you can see.
No, yeah, it's just as far as you can actually read the measuring rod.
Measuring rod.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the working range.
How easily you can read the marks on your pole. That's what determines the working range of an auto level. Working range of the auto level has nothing to do with the construction of the optics. It has to do with how easily you can read the marks on the pole.
Pretty clear to me.
Read the marks on the pole. Well, yeah, like we said at the beginning. First job should be get your setup up and go and see how far you can see. What's the actual optical range of that particular tool? That's what we did.
Some people aren't going to be very happy with hearing George say that, I think.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, he has to live in the real world at some time, doesn't he? He can't be affected by his model all the time. It's just his thoughts about stuff and then actual reality of how tools work.
So that's why they have to move fairly often.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
So would
Is
not
your an auto level, the working range of an auto level is determined not by establishing your horizontal line, but how easily can you read the markings on your range pole? And that's determined by a number of things. One, the power of the optics of your auto level. You know, the more powerful your optics, the easier you can read those numbers in your auto level. Quite typically, let's
I don't know what keeps going on with this. It sounds like it sounds pretty bad with George, and some weird stuff keeps happening. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, again, he says it there about the optics. The working range of the tool is from how far you can see it, as most people know within the trade.
say your best auto levels have a compensator angular accuracy of about 1 arcsecond. Another thing that's going to affect you, and this is a very big effect, is the width of the crosshairs that are etched into the optics. With my good auto levels, I have determined, and with my theodolites, those tend to be the width of your crosshairs that's going to obscure what you see in the distance is on the order of about 2 arcseconds, 2 to 2.5 arcseconds. For mine, it's 2.4 arcseconds.
Over
so
what
that's
distance?
Going to obscure.
So, there you go. There's another one. I don't know whether you noticed that. The actual crosshair is 2 to 2.5 arcseconds, which is fantastic if you work it out through the Ruhif opposite side angle, because it's always there. The angular size of the crosshair, opposite side angle. You can imagine it being as big as you want. Like we went over just earlier. I want to go over that again.
Here, what you see in the distance is on the order of about 2 arcseconds, 2 to 2.5 arcseconds. For mine, it's 2.4 arcseconds.
2.4 arcseconds for the crosshair. Even though some people have wrote down in a book to the arcsecond, when actually George says the actual crosshair is 2 to 2.5 arcseconds. He's measured his as 2.4 arcseconds. That's right. George has measured the thickness of a line angularly. The crosshair. Nobody else has gone to these sort of strength.
Well, this is impossible to do because.
What do you mean it's impossible?
Because you are tilting auto level means that you are tilting also crosshair, so you cannot measure.
No, the crosshair. The crosshair has an angular measurement.
Yeah, of course. Even
though some people claim to be able to measure in the distance to the arcsecond, the actual hair that they're using to measure is 2.5 arcseconds, or 2 to 2.5 arcseconds. So that's clever.
So crosshair is thicker than
the accuracy
of tool. Yes.
Yeah.
So it means that tool is not as accurate as is depicted. because you are measuring with crosshairs. So this is just nonsense.
Oh, Darren, don't be doing this to George. Don't be disrespectful, Darren. As soon as George says something, Darren has to come in the chat telling him he's wrong. It's not. He's right. Darren, this time George is definitely right. Not about the angular size of the crosshair, but the actual working range.
So that's going to obscure what you can read on your range pole. So between the two important things is the scope magnification, the angular, or the three, angular accuracy, and the width of your crosshairs. So
it's George.
Assuming that
just
you have
a
enough
second, George, please. It's
Wait.
not 2.4 arc seconds at like a meter, is it?
Meter? What? Arc second is angular measure. Meter is a...
Yeah, and I'm talking about the width of your crosshair is not 2 arc seconds at a meter, is it?
Oh, no. Yeah, it is. It's 2 arc seconds no matter what distance you go up. So how much it obscures is you take your distance that you're sighting times the angular width in arc seconds, and that tells you how much in height and the distance is being obscured by the crosshair. It's 2 arc seconds, 2.4 arc seconds in my case, at any distance.
Sorry, Buster.
Well, would you say that that instrument, like let's say just an auto level, would you say it's more accurate, like a shorter, if you shorten up your sights, like instead of shooting to say 50 meters, you shot to 20 meters, it would be more, you could be more accurate?
No, not necessarily, no. What do you mean by more accurate in terms of what?
Well, the closer you would get to the story pole or whatever reference mark that I want to make to bring physicality to this line, the shorter the distance, the more accurate you could be, right?
Not necessarily, because the auto level is working with angular measurements and angular deviations.
See, did you hear George then? This auto level is working with angular deviation. It's not. Just
what does it even mean? What he said.
I don't know. He's got an angular size of the crosshair. He's managed to find an angle in there somehow.
So that's a linear thing. That remains basically the same no matter at what distance. What limits your usefulness of the auto level is how far in a distance can you actually read your range pole and the numbers off your range pole. In the United States, our range poles are calibrated, but have resolutions of 100th of a foot, which is basically 1/8 of an inch. 100th of a foot is 1.2 inches, or 0.100.
So we got that. George says yet again, the working range of the tool is dependent on what you can read on the measuring rod. Isn't that different than what George? I'm pretty sure George went over this with you, Blue, before he came over here. Darren's verifying the 2 arc second crosshair theory from George. Nice.
100th of a
well
foot
done, Darren.
is
Thanks for coming in.
0.2 inches, an 1/8 of an inch is 0.125, so it's very close to an 1/8 of an inch. So your graduations on the range pole is about an 1/8 of an inch on each one. So it basically boils down to, as you move that out in the distance, how easy hard is it for you to read those graduations on the range pole and the numbers on the range pole. And that turns out to be, when you go through like the crosshairs and the numbers that I did through, I figured it out. It works out to about 96 to 100 meters is what the effective range is on a auto level in order of being able to resolve differences on your range pole to 100 foot.
Well, there you go. So George just said the effective range about 96 to 100 meters. It's a bit much, really. I don't think George has ever actually done any surveying or anything, but that's quite a lot. Like a lot.
That's fine, but I'm saying, but if I shorten that distance from 100 meters to 20, I could be more accurate.
Well, again, it depends. What do you mean by more accurate? Yes, you can resolve smaller graduations on your range pole. You can see them better, so you can get better resolution, but it's not necessarily going to be more accurate in terms of angular measure, because you're measuring smaller distances in the vertical height over shorter distances, but that ratio remains the same no matter how far out you go. For example, if you can resolve, say, 1/8 of an inch at 100 meters, you probably could do 1/16 of an inch at 50 meters. And, that sort of thing. But the angular deviation remains the same. It's just that, you can read finer and finer resolution at shorter and shorter distances, but that ratio remains the same. So again, you have to be kind of specific about what you mean by accuracy.
Well, I want to bring physicality to one of those lines, and I'm just trying to figure out like the tool that I could use to go, instead of having to look over a mile through a scope that I don't think you could look over a mile to see range.
You can if you're graduate. Yeah, you can if say at a mile. Obviously, you're not going to be able to resolve markings spaced 1/8 of an inch on the range pole. They're going to have to be much wider apart and thicker in order for you to see it. That's why I build my own targets to go sight things at 6 miles. Obviously, I can't see a range pole or the markings on a range pole that's marking graduations of 100th of a foot at 6 miles. But I can, if I put those markings, say, 1/2 a foot apart, I can then see them at 6 miles. So
George can see 1/2 meter on a measuring rod over 6 miles. I don't know what the use of that would be, to be honest. But George says he can do it. 6 miles. And thank you very much, Gods. Godzilla's just gifted some memberships. So you can go and go back and go over the philosophy course. Thank you very much, Gods.
that ratio remains the same.
Does that mean, like, generally speaking, practically a surveyor doesn't use range poles with that kind of a big distance on them?
Yeah, of course, because you can't see the markings on the range pole.
So it's not a common practice by a professional to use this equipment that way?
Well, of course not.
Of course not.
You have what's called the working range of your auto level, and that's typically 100 to 200 meters, and that is limited by how easily you can see the graduations on your range pole, which is graduated to 100th of a foot. That's what determines the limit of using your auto level. But you can
see, that's the limit of using your auto level, what you can see on the measuring rod. And Darren's seems like he's a keen trigonometrist, doing angles and distances. But what if you don't have the distance, Darren? You ever worked that one out? What if you just have the angle?
sight horizontals indefinitely out. You can go out 6 miles, 10 miles, or whatever. You're not limited by the optics for sighting a horizontal, but you are limited by how you can read the graduations and the lighting on your range pole. That's what limits your working range.
6 miles, says Darren. 6 miles and half a metre is enough to show curvature, says Darren. Curvature of what? Darren? I don't know.
You got to remember, plane surveyors are interested in establishing level lines or points of
elevation.
The same elevation. Okay, and you do that using differential leveling. Differential leveling takes out refraction effects and it takes out Earth curvature effects. The fact that you have a curved Earth or refraction is eliminated when you do differential leveling. Okay,
there you go. Eliminated? Do you want to hear that again? I mean, I don't know what he means there, but listen to this, 20 seconds.
That using differential leveling. Differential leveling takes out refraction effects and it takes out Earth curvature effects.
Right, so there's no effect of refraction or Earth curve, whatever that is, whenever you do differential leveling. And differential leveling is entirely based upon parallel horizontals and the difference between the levels that you measure, the vertical distance.
The fact that you have a curved Earth or refraction is eliminated when you do differential leveling. Okay, that's the whole purpose of using differential leveling. So you don't have to do calculations about Earth curvature or anything like that. You don't have, that doesn't figure in. All you do.
So sweet. So I could use differential leveling and get my physicality to that horizontal line over a distance.
Yeah. Sounds good.
No, you can't.
Yeah, so you don't take anything into account. Look.
No, because every time you're on a level, you are establishing a new vertical and a new horizontal.
No, you're not.
It's not the same horizontal.
Not when you do it, George. Have you ever done differential leveling?
Yes, I have.
How
Many
far?
times.
How far did you go?
You can go as far as you want.
Well, what? Well, that's using parallel horizontals, right? Or is he gone, or is that me?
Say, every time you move that level to a new setup, say 100 meters away or 50 meters away, you have established a new vertical and a new horizontal, and those are not parallel to the previous one.
Verticals and horizontals aren't vertical or horizontal. Did he just say? Different horizontal and a different vertical. Meaning like in a new position. Or do you think he means actually a completely different vertical? As in, not the same as the vertical that he did in the other position. Like a wandering vertical as he moves. Not in reality, obviously.
So what's happening?
You're following a level line. A level line is at the same height above any gravitational equal potential. That's what differential leveling does. Leveling in this case means establishing points at the same elevation. And you can do that by differential leveling, so you don't have to figure in refraction or the curvature of the Earth. It just follows naturally the contour of the surface that you're on. It means same elevation.
So wait, so if that's the case and the horizontals are never the same, then why would they have ever needed geodetic surveying?
Oh, wait, sorry, run that by me again.
Why do they say horizontal distances, George?
Horizontal distances.
Yeah. That's how you do differential leveling. Vertical changes and horizontal distances.
Yeah, what about it?
Do you not see the
I
problem?
I don't understand what you're asking. You're just throwing out words. Horizontal,
Just horizontal
vertical.
and vertical. Yeah.
What about it?
Well, they're the two measurements that you're taking when you're doing differential leveling.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't.
Yes,
you're marking down numbers. No, it isn't. What you're doing is marking down elevations in differential leveling.
By measuring horizontal distances and vertical measurements.
Okay, if you want to put it that way, fine. But the horizontal distance.
So
is
you
only
are agreeing.
specific.
Was that an
No,
agreement?
no.
Because it sounded a little bit
No.
wishy-washy. After just saying definitely not, it sounded like you backtracked.
No, I'm not backtracking. You're not being specific. The horizontal distance that you're talking about is only specific to a given on-level setup. You do a back sight and a foresight, your on-level is in the middle. That horizontal is respect to the on-level at that point. You move the on-level ahead, there's a new horizontal, and it's not parallel to the previous horizontal.
George says that horizontals aren't parallel, but I would state that all horizontals are parallel because they are all parallel to the plane of the horizon. Pretty sure George knows this. Or George's model afflictions coming up, because everybody knows in reality that all horizontals are parallel. But George has this idea. Now, I don't know who's told him that. It might have been Blue Marble Science. It might have been Rumpus. We can't know for sure. But they were part of his team. Maybe Epi Dogma told him to say it. He was a vulnerable person at this age, I think. We were trying to be friendly to George because I don't think he had that many friends near the end. So, yeah, I don't know who's led George astray here. This doesn't sound like normal behaviour of anybody that knows anything about this particular trade or differential levelling.
Well, so that's your claim, but if that's the case, it begs the question, why would they ever have needed geodetic surveying?
What about geodetic surveying?
Sorry?
I didn't get the question. What did you say about geodetic surveying?
I'm saying if that's your claim that the horizontals always change, why would they have ever needed geodetic surveying if the planar surveying's already doing it for them?
Planar surveys don't go out very far. Geodetic survey is for long distances.
Wait a minute, though. You said that they could differential level as far as they want, right? I mean, you could go in the U.S., you could go thousands of miles if you so chose.
Yeah, that's what geodetic surveyors do. They do the same thing as plane surveyors, except that they do it over much longer distances. They do their differential leveling over miles, tens of miles.
So is George, right, telling everybody that pretty much what I've been saying for all this time. There's only surveyors. All surveyors survey locally. And George has made the difference here between these two groups of surveyors, that they just do the same thing, but further. They go further, doing exactly the same thing. There's no difference to George.
They cannot, because operating range is fixed, so they cannot do the same.
Yeah, I just imagined you went from here to there, and then that's out of your range. You say, sorry, you can't go any further. We need to go and get these special surveyors that just do the same thing, but go further. I mean, it's obvious that there's no difference. That there is only surveyors, right? That's it. There are quantity surveyors that have an awful job, in my opinion, but they don't do this. It's not the same sort of surveying. All surveyors survey locally. They're where they are. You'll have one guy with a rod or a maybe a new GPS system thing, fancy thing, but he'll be where he is holding it, and then will be another guy with a base station. Or maybe not, maybe just one guy. But that where that guy is, that's where he will be surveying that area. They don't go any further. There's no remote surveying. It doesn't happen. There's no such thing. Just surveying. And it's a real job that real people do. George, listen to that again, just in case, just for the blue marble scientists out there.
They do the same thing as plane surveyors, except that they do it over much longer distances. They do their differential leveling over miles, tens of miles.
So they just do the same thing. You can't do differential leveling over larger distances. You just have to do more transitions if you want to go further. That's what George says. Can we watch what's going on in the chat as well, please, people? Everybody. We've got some new people in. Now, they may be obsessed about planes and runways and all sorts of things, but we are tonight going over George Schnutzak, God rest his soul, and the differential leveling, the basic differential leveling. Please don't get distracted by these people. We've got Darren, who's, I'm hoping, he's going to take up the horizontal paradox proof, finish off George's legacy, maybe with a bit of help from Blue Marble Science. He might be able to present it on the Blue Marble Science channel. And yes, we do have some new people in the chat, so can we I'm hoping to have some conversations with people. So can we please try and be friendly to people that maybe I might be able to talk to? Or we might have to start... I don't know. Just remember, I'm trying to be able to talk to people, me. So if everybody could please facilitate the conversation and not try and end it.
Well, why would they need it? Why would they ever need it if the guys that are going out on the field that did the first order measurements, if they always created, as you claim, new horizontals, why would they have ever needed geodetic after that?
Well, what the purpose of geodetic surveying is to set up monuments and reference markers throughout in the United States. You can go everywhere. You can go around and find these little circular discs that have been established by geodetic surveyors that give you a monument of a specific location measured very accurately. That location and its elevation are known very accurately, and it's stamped on these monuments. That's what the geodetic surveyors do. And then the plane surveyors can use these to reference their own measurements off when they're doing plane state stuff. Or
George thinks the difference between plane surveyors and geodetic surveyors is the geodetic surveyors put the benchmarks in. All of the benchmarks are already in, so I guess there's no need for those guys anymore. Or it may be that certain people have really strange ideas about what surveying is. Maybe like George. Maybe it might be people like George that has told people the wrong thing, and they might have just believed George about it rather than actually going to talk to a real surveyor. They may just be talking to people like George, or maybe some of the role-playing surveyors that we've had around here.
Trying to establish boundary lines or whatever, they find one of these monuments and it's reported in the journals and in the archives, and they know precisely what the latitude, longitude, and elevation is of that particular marker that they can go off.
So were the geodetic surveyors doing first order measurements to set those monuments?
Not sure. What do you mean by first order measurements? You mean in the class of measurement, like first order, second order?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the other?
Yeah, they try to go accurately as they can first.
We can't hear you again.
That seems kind of backwards.
It's a good way to get the thing out, isn't it?
Who was I talking to there, Bus? Was it Buster? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. What state are you in, Buster?
I'm in the Carolinas.
Okay. Well, if you go around, sure, maybe around your town, you've seen these little, they're kind of brown. They're
George is acting like nobody's seen a benchmark or we don't know what we're talking about. I think this is where George shows his, maybe dementia. I'm not too sure. But, yeah, we do know this. We've studied this and pretty sure we taught George all of this.
typically bronze, and they have them cast and set in concrete around your town and in your county and that. It's a National Geodetic Survey. I mean, there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of these throughout the United States. I know where there's actually 5 of them in my community that I can go off on the islands and in the towns and stuff. I found them. I come across them every now and then I make a note of where they are. And the National Geodetic Survey has done a considerable amount of work, and they've set these monuments on throughout the county. And the plane surveyors can go to one of these. They know then within, a very high level degree of accuracy what the latitude, longitude, and the elevation of that. And then they can set their base stations up there to broadcast, whether it be a GPS slave unit or whatever. They can go off those monuments to know exactly where they are and use that as a reference point.
But they had to use first order measurements to set those benchmarks, right?
Yeah, I mean, this has been done, over a century. They've been established and then reworked several times to verify. Yeah, I mean, there's been a tremendous amount of work that's gone into doing this.
Yeah, but first order measurements are done with the chains and instruments, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's the way it would be GPS. Of course, that's the way they did it.
They did first order measurements with GPS?
No, you don't do the first order set. GPS doesn't give you first order, second order, third order. That has to do with more mechanical.
Yeah. No, I think I misunderstood you. I was trying to clarify. It confused me.
Sorry. Clarify what now?
It broke up. I thought you said that they did first order measurements with GPS. I misunderstood.
No. GPS is very accurate. I mean, they verified all these things using GPS. I mean, you don't have different class of measurements, first, second, third order class with GPS. Well, in a sense, you might, in terms of how accurate your GPS is, how good your GPS receiver. But most surveying GPSs run $20,000, $30,000, and these things are extremely accurate to within millimeters.
What? To within millimeters, he says. George.
Yeah.
Now, you said they verified it with GPS. Is it more like they programmed GPS with the true measurements from the ground? That must be how they did it.
Well, no, what you start out with is the GPS, the software within GPS established, probably from Greenwich, where you have 0 degrees latitude. You start off there, and there's things like in France at the Louvre, or whatever, where they
We're talking about geodetic surveying and GPS, and now he's in France at the Louvre.
have like the holy latitude, longitude mark. Throughout the world, there's places like this. In the United States, we have the National Institute of Technology, NIST, where they have precise locations, and there's about like 6 of these throughout the world. There's one in Russia, one in France, United States, and other countries where they have their Institute of Standards, and they kind of have a holy mark that gives you latitude, longitude, and elevation. And then once you set up your GPS system and put in your software, you can calibrate it to those points and then check with these 6 different locations throughout the world to make sure that your GPS system is reading out correctly.
How does the GPS system work then, George?
Oh gosh, I don't want to really. The guy to ask about that's really studied that, it would be like Jesse Kozlowski.
Yeah, but you said you calibrate it to these 6 different places. How does that process work?
I mean, once you set up your software, then you can check out the readouts of your GPS to verify that it is accurately reading these points.
So you have to go to those points to do your...
Exactly. Yeah. For a GPS, that's a piece of cake. All you have to do is put a receiver there. Put your receiver there and check it.
George thinks you calibrate these tools by taking them to 6 different places and just uploading your software to it. I mean... Don't bother checking it. It's not true. Yeah, but you'd have to go. There's only 6 places.
Well, that's what the manufacturers do. I mean, you don't necessarily go to all 6 places. Like if in the United States, you go to Boulder, Colorado. That's where NIST, the headquarters of NIST is, Boulder, Colorado. So a manufacturer wholly GPS system, they'd send it to NIST to get it calibrated. The people at NIST would take that receiver, put it at their holy spot, and see what the receiver is reading out, and then tweak it if it needs to be corrected.
What's it reading?
It's reading the 3 coordinates, the X, Y, Z coordinates.
Where's it getting them from?
Well, it's getting that from the satellites by timing signals coming from the satellites that GPS constellation of satellites that orbit the Earth.
And it gets a Z-axis.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 3 coordinates, X, Y, and Z.
And what sort of accuracy did you say when you said millimeters? What?
Yeah, they can do it within.
You did mean like within 100 millimeters or something like that, right?
No, millimeter, like 1 or 2 millimeters.
No.
Very, very accurate.
Way, George.
Yeah.
On the
surveying GPS system will give you spots on the Earth to within millimeters.
On the Z-axis.
Not necessarily on the Z-axis. That one's a little tougher, but as far as latitude and longitude, you can get it within millimeters, and I'm not sure as far as elevation. The elevation is a little sloppier than the latitude and longitude, but I'm not exact. I'd have to ask our local surveyor.
Have you not got a GPS system? Did you never have one of those? Did you not have a GPS system?
No, I'm never going to spend that kind of money to get an accurate surveying GPS.
So you didn't have one of those? You said you had 300,000. I thought Did you not have one?
I have test equipment. I have electronic equipment, electronic test equipment. I'm not interested in spending a lot of money on surveying equipment. I'm not a professional surveyor. I have no need for that. I don't do surveying as a profession. I design electronic equipment.
Well, it's George saying he doesn't do surveying as a profession. George isn't a professional surveyor. He doesn't even do it as a profession. He designs electronical equipment, he says. It's a bit breaking up a bit.
So I have electronic testing that allows me to do my job, which is not surveying, designing electronic testing.
Right, so you don't know on the vertical scale on the GPS
Not
system,
offhand. No. All I know is from when Jesse Kozlowski came to visit me with his system, what he got the verticals with his GPS system. Once he got it all dialed in and his space station set up, he was getting readings in the Z-axis, as you say, within a couple centimeters.
Couple of centimeters, which is not first order to the millimeter, as George just claimed a little bit earlier. 2 centimeters is no good. It's not first order.
But he was getting the latitude and longitude within a couple millimeters.
Is that the one he put on the roof of his car?
Probably is, yeah.
Right, 20 centimeters. So
yeah,
where would he have put the base station then, when he was doing Rakir's Bridge?
I don't know. You'd have to talk to him.
Right. He's gone missing though, hasn't he?
No, he's not missing. He's just not interested in talking all this stuff much anymore. I mean,
yeah.
I haven't been in contact with Jesse probably in half a year. He's just more interested in doing his job.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that GPS isn't near as accurate as the auto level when it comes out to creating a horizontal plane.
Oh, that's not true. It's far superior.
He just said
that's odd because the other day I was working on a job and the guy had a really nice GPS unit and he was using his theodolite, and I asked him, I was like, why aren't you using that? And he's like, you only use GPS if you just want to be within like a foot or 6 inches accurate. He said, I use this.
Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Maybe he doesn't have a very good GPS system. You know, they come in.
I think you better look into that, George. I think you might be wrong, dude.
No. See, this is George. He's talking to people who have actually literally just talked to actual real surveyors. And George, like quite rightly, doesn't sound like he knows what he's talking about because he's going against what the actual real surveyors have just told both Buster and Gods. But this is George Slack. God rest his soul. Everybody knows what George was like.
This guy had really nice equipment.
Let's qualify what you mean.
George?
I said, like, when it comes to elevation.
Wait, just a minute. Let's qualify this. In terms of setting an accurate straight line horizontal, a GPS is far superior to a theodolite and an auto level. In work, yes. You can do better with an auto level, say if you're trying to establish this horizontal line or whatever over 100 meters. It depends on the distances that you're using. GPS is great for long distances.
Even over a mile, it's more accurate to use.
Wait a minute. I just asked the guy, and this was important because it was right along a floodplain, and he had to sign off paperwork to get it verified with the state so this house would be within the parameters. He had a really nice theodolite, and looked to me, I don't know for sure, a really nice GPS unit. And I got curious because he was using the theodolite. And I was like, why aren't you using the GPS? And he said, because it's not as accurate as this. I said, how accurate is the theodolite? And he held up his hand, and barely like a millimeter he held up. And I said, well,
again, it depends over the
let me finish. Yeah. He had to. I said, well, how accurate is the GPS? And he held up his hand again, and he said, about golf ball is as accurate as you can get. And he had to work off a benchmark a mile away to make sure the house was built above the highest floodplain. And he was using Seattleite.
Yeah. Well, he may not have had the best of the Trimble GPS systems. I don't know what he had. You'd have to get his model number and manufacturer. I mean, they come on all different sorts of flavors and grades of accuracy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the guy had really nice stuff he's doing.
Well, you don't know that for sure. You're just guessing.
Well,
so that's George telling Buster that Buster was just guessing, whereas Buster was the guy that was talking to the surveyor, and George is the one that's just heard the story. I mean, who's more likely to be guessing in this, Buster or George? Make your own mind up on that one.
he was having to do it to sign off for paperwork.
That's fine, but they may not require. They might not require anything better than a few inches or whatever. That's fine.
Well, I just asked him the difference, and he said that Seattle is always.
For his system, that might be true, but for the system two systems I've seen a very accurate GPS system that our local surveyor has that also does some geodesy type work. And I've seen Jesse Kozlowski's. These are very impressive systems. They're very expensive, and they can give you resolutions and accuracies on latitude and longitude on the order of a few millimeters.
But it's still all based off of first order measurements. Like they could not even have GPS if they hadn't done the first order measurements first.
Well, yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, fair enough.
So they're only as accurate as the first order measurements. And like really, when you're talking about GPS and accuracy, it's how close can they get to the analog measurements, if you will. Like these are like digital style of readings, but it was someone that came in there and physically gave the measurements first. So when you talk about accuracy, it's how accurate can they get it to an auto level, really?
Well,
right?
Not really, because
how so?
Well, like I say, you have like these 6 holy points throughout the world at the National Institutes of Standards for the respective countries, like U.S., France, Russia, and others, and the GPS with the algorithms that it has is once you establish one reference point, the GPS may actually determine the other ones a little more accurate just because of the nature of the system. I don't know this for sure. But
nature. Using some strange words, George.
So no, due to the design, just like when I design instrumentation, high degree resolution voltmeters and that, they can actually be better than a lot of the standards that people are using just because of the design architecture and how the algorithms within the instruments work. This whole thing of metrology is extremely important. And
he's talking about algorithms within the instrument. And how does that help it get more accurate? We're talking about first order measurements, like actual physical measurements that are made.
Yeah, this is physical or mechanical precision, not algorithms.
Algorithms built into a thing. Yeah.
Extremely difficult to verify because you have to have very accurate standards.
Yeah, physical measurements, things. George. Very accurate physical measurements. They call them first order.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to point out. Like the GPS can only be as accurate as the measurements that are programmed into it, which are those.
Well, that's where I'm confused. If the first order measurements are all the horizontals are always different.
Measurements are not programmed measurements are not programmed into the GPS. It's the algorithms that are programmed in, and the algorithms work what the measurements are. It isn't like you have a lookup table or something in your GPS that you've programmed in. You have algorithms by getting timing signals from the satellites, and you compute what the X, Y, Z coordinates are, and you check it against these reference standards throughout the world. Now, of course, you're going to have, there may be the GPS, the very accurate GPS systems aren't going to be any worse than what you have established using, the theodolites and chains and stuff. And of course, so what you do is verify that your GPS is at least as accurate as the old methods of using. So I don't get what your concern is. The GPS gives you the proper readings compared as established at these reference points.
There's nobody else to help George.
As long as the GPS gives you the same coordinates as been established by, your...
He's like, I say he's a dying breed. But George, I think George Nutsack, God rest his soul, was the last of the bullshitters, the surveying, but well, he wasn't even a surveyor. The last of the role-playing bullshitters within this particular trade. I'm not so sure there will ever be any others to come back and replace him, to be honest. Everybody's watched what happened to Jesse Kozlowski, doing Jesse Kozlowski, and the guy that probably doesn't live in Maine. And here we have George. These three people, these three trustworthy people, are all the dogmatic globe believers have. Literally, this is all they have. And they're not going to come back around. There's nobody else to help them out with it.
Your chain and theodolite and doing differential leveling throughout the world, you're done, right?
From a mean sea level, George, elevations.
Lost the audio. I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything you said except mean sea level elevations. The audio dropped.
Yeah, all of the different land masses have a mean sea level, and then all elevations are adjusted to that mean sea level, aren't they?
Yeah, as far as I understand it, yeah.
Like Buster was saying,
it goes beyond just mean sea level now. It goes just beyond mean sea level because they have now an ellipsoid model of the Earth that's been established by international agreement, and your mean sea level
international
is
agreement?
No longer the standard. It's this WGS 83, 84 or something like that.
No, all elevations in the UK are measured to the mean sea level benchmark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you can reference a mean sea level to the WGS 84 or whatever. I mean, these numbers are
not in the UK. No, it doesn't mention that.
I can guarantee you that somewhere somebody has the numbers written down that what mean sea level by the UK is in relationship to the ellipsoid. The
Do you think?
WGS 84. That's where no.
Do you think the any of the elevations would have changed after they put the WGS? You know, after they've set it everything and measured everything with first order measurements before
I mean,
GPS.
The whole idea in any sort of metrology is to maintain consistency. When you come up with a new technology, you want to adhere to what's been previously established because, my God, it creates all kinds of problems if all of a sudden you start changing, say, the length of the meter or what a second is. I mean, just think of all the repercussions that would have in terms of
Yeah, just imagine the repercussions of that. New technology, like a theodolite, was a way of taking over from the measurements of measuring triangles. Optical device and auto level was a quicker way of establishing a water level. So it's pretty clear that when you move to new technology, you can't change the length of a meter like George says. So you can't change the water level into a horizontal if the water level isn't already a horizontal. Wouldn't work. George has just said. It's logic. It just doesn't make sense to change the meaning of something because a new technology comes in. I'll put it back again, just for any blue marble scientists listening. Any of the ones that aren't listening talking about planes.
Changing, say, the length of the meter or what a second is. I mean, just think of all the repercussions that would have in terms of everything that depends.
In the UK, when we did our stuff, and let's say they were building a canal in the 1800s, would they have been building that on a...
Your audio.
Would they have been building a canal in the 1800s on a WGS model or with a horizontal datum?
In the 1800s, they never had a WGS 84.
Oh, so they must have just used the horizontal datum then, right?
They would use some datum. Like I say, there's these geodetic markers throughout the world. They would have gone off one of those and related.
What, in the 1800s?
Yeah.
The geodetic datums.
Surveyors have been working on this stuff since the 1700s.
Yeah. In the
Yeah, that's what I was.
Oh, it's a go.
Oh, I'm just saying that's what I was getting on about earlier. Back then they just did the first order measurements, feet on the ground, instrument chains.
Right.
But you're saying that when they did that, all their horizontals were different.
Horizontals? Yeah. Well, of course, every time you move your auto level or your theodolite.
Did it break up?
Yeah, he did.
I said, yes, every time you physically move your auto level or your theodolite, the horizontal changes.
So how did they work that out? I mean, when did they figure out that did those guys know that back then?
A horizontal is established in your auto level by a plumb that the optics are attached to. So horizontals go off a vertical plumb line.
But those guys back then doing the first order measurements, they knew their horizontals were intersecting?
Yeah. Horizontal doesn't come into play in establishing this stuff.
So that's
it
what
does?
level is.
No, not if you're doing differential leveling. All that stuff goes away. You don't need to worry about your horizontals if you're doing differential leveling.
What? Did everybody hear that? George literally just said within differential leveling, you do not need to worry about horizontals. Even though the tool, the level, establishes a horizontal, it has to be set up horizontal in order for you to do differential leveling. But George says this.
Yeah. Horizontal doesn't come into play in establishing this stuff.
So that's
it
what
does?
level is.
No, not if you're doing differential leveling. All that stuff goes away. You don't need to worry about your horizontals if you're doing differential leveling.
What?
Yeah.
Did you just do away with horizontals in differential leveling?
Yeah, you don't need to know what your horizontals are. All you're doing is finding equal points of elevation.
George. I don't know why he said that. Because, I mean, that just goes to show how obviously little George knows about the trade. And that'd be embarrassing if you were a surveyor, and if you're a surveyor listening to this, I'm sorry about this, but this is the length that these dogmatic globe guys have had to go to. They're literally denying the way the tools work. An auto level only really does differential leveling, and it only does that because the tool establishes a horizontal plane of reference. Yet George seems to think you don't need that horizontal with differential leveling. It's bad. I know he's dead and we shouldn't really speak ill of the dead, but on this one I have to point out that George is just lying to everyone. He's maybe mistaken, maybe ignorant of the fact that he hasn't got a fucking clue about what he's talking about. But he's pretending like he is. Call that dishonest. And maybe Blue Marble Science told him to say it. Maybe it was Rumpus that told him to say it. Or maybe he just made it up for himself. Doesn't really matter how it happened. He's wrong.
You can do it without knowing anything about horizontals.
How do you do that? How do you get equal points of elevation?
Differential leveling. You take your auto level, you set it up, and you set two range poles equidistant from your auto level. You do a backside. Say on your backside pole, you want a certain elevation. Say you mark off 5 feet. Your range pole is set up so one of the marks is exactly at 5 feet. So you sight that from your auto level, and then you do your foresight to the other range pole and your range pole mark, and you know that mark is exactly at the same elevation as a backside.
So what kind of distance are we talking here? Those poles from the auto level?
And the working range, typically for an auto level, is somewhere between 100 and 200 meters. It depends upon what the power of the scope is and how thick your crosshairs are.
How thick your crosshairs are. Listen to that again. Sorry, it's like a comedy routine. For anybody listening, I'm really hoping that some surveyors take this for some sort of a training thing.
It depends upon what the power of the scope is and how thick your crosshairs are. That obscures your measurement. It boils down to how can you.
So it all depends on how thick your crosshairs are, because your crosshairs will obscure your measurement. Yet, they have people that use instruments over 500 meters that can measure to 1 arc second. Even George claims this. When the crosshair is thicker than that accuracy that he claims to be able to measure to over a distance that he's just told you, it doesn't work. You can't read it.
You read the marks. Can you differentiate between two adjacent marks on your range pole? That's limited by distance.
Did you say? Meters. Yeah. Did you say in between 100 and 200 meters?
I was gonna say 100 meters even sounds a little rich, George. Even 75 would probably be the max, I think.
Well, you look at some of the spec. Depends on the manufacturer, and not all the same. It depends on the optics in your auto level.
I don't know a surveyor that would go over 75.
Well, I don't know. God, wait a minute. We don't know what the equipment is. I mean, we might not be able to get the good stuff. I mean, there might be ones that can go up to 200 meters.
Yeah. I mean, if you take take a construction auto level like a CTS Burger 24X. That's probably only going to be good up to
I can't.
maybe 50, 60 meters. But you take a more expensive 32X power scope, like I think Bev has one, I have one. You can go further range because you can read the numbers off your range pole at a greater distance than you can, say, for a 24X CTS Burger construction auto level.
How far can you get yours then, George?
I've never really tried to push it. I'd have to look in the what they give as the spec. I can't tell you offhand. I've never really tried to test it or verify it.
So George has just claimed all of that sort of stuff and says he's got an auto level, but then says he's never tested any of this stuff for himself. So where did George get all his information from? Claims to have the tools. Where does George know how far you can sight all of this stuff if he's never actually done it for himself with his own tools? What's he got his tools for? Hope people can smell the bullshit, because there's a lot of it here with George. He did say from 100 to 200.
Yeah, that's what I've seen on various auto level manufacturers, say from Trimble, Topcon.
Which
CTS
one was the
Burger.
200?
Pardon?
Which one was the 200?
There was a Trimble I was looking at one time.
Do you know the series? I'd like to check it out.
Yeah, and what was the magnification on it?
It was 32X.
Oh, why just get a better scope? Get like 125X. Why don't they do that?
Well, it's tough to make really good optics, and it gets extremely expensive. You know, they're trying to make auto levels so they're very affordable and cheap. You know, typical.
Yeah, but you're talking about 20,000, aren't you, for a GPS system? I mean, like, imagine an auto level that could read first order over. Well, I mean, how far? Like, I mean, get a really good scope on it.
Yeah, that's fine, but serious surveyors doing long distance leveling, they use theodolites, not auto levels. They use expensive theodolites. An expensive theodolite.
What scope do you get on that?
Yeah. So what? What?
What scope can you get on a theodolite then?
Well, my GTS 3B is a 30 power scope.
That's not as good as 32. My auto level's
Yeah,
better than that.
There's not much difference between 30 and 32.
No, I know. So well, that's what we're saying. What's the best? Come on.
Well, the best I've seen is my Topcon 3T GTS 3B with a 30 power scope, and it has extra optics that you can attach to it to get up to about a 45.
Sorry, you cut out then. A 40 something, did you say?
I think about 45 power. There's accessories that you can add to my theodolite to increase the power of the scope up to about 45.
45. Nice.
Did he say 45 or 40 power?
45 power.
5.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what's the big difference between the theodolite and the auto level? Like, really, what's the big difference?
A huge difference is that with the theodolite, you can measure horizontal and vertical angles accurately. You can't do that with auto level. All an auto level does is establish a horizontal. That's its purpose in light. And with modern theodolites, you can also measure distances because they have.
He's just said that the auto level only purpose is establishing a horizontal. Yet he said whenever you use it for doing differential leveling, you don't need the horizontal, the very thing that the tool does. He's contradicting himself, and I'm not too sure whether he notices it. But that's a common trait.
You have a built-in laser, and if you shoot it out to a virtual reflector target, you can determine distances to well within a centimeter. Up to,
So-
and for mine is rated to go with a 9 target, an array of 9 retroreflectors. I can go out to 11,000 feet, a little over 2 miles in determining distance with my theodolite.
So basically, it's just an auto level with a rangefinder, and you can take it off level.
And
It's a theodolite
measuring
with a
vertical and
rangefinder.
horizontal.
No, but I'm saying a
measuring-
theodolite. Sorry, I'm saying a theodolite is basically just like an auto level, except you can take it off level and it has a rangefinder. That's the only difference.
you
Is
can-
No,
you can measure.
the optics
Oh,
don't
there's a
work the
huge
same
difference.
at all.
There's a
Pardon
huge
me?
difference. There's a huge difference. They're not the same at all, like Ben
Yeah.
was saying. The theodolite allows you to measure very accurately vertical and horizontal angles. You can't do that with a.
That's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, and it's got a rangefinder.
But it's not as accurate for the horizontal, for setting the
No.
horizontal, right?
What do you mean? What isn't?
Well, the auto level is just for the horizontal, right? So for doing
Exactly.
what
That's all-
that does, that's the best thing for horizontal measurements, right?
No.
For establishing elevation markings, right?
Theodolite can do just as well, if not better, in terms of with theodolite, unlike
Terrible, isn't it? Can
Say
anybody else hear what he's saying?
No, he's breaking up for me too.
Okay, I'll try again. Is my audio back?
It just
So
sounds
far.
like you keep moving away from your mic, George.
But I'm not moving away. My head is in the same place for the past 2 hours.
So,
Okay.
what's the practical working distance between the theodolite and the measuring stick? What do you think, George? Like, what do you?
Said anywhere from about 100 to 200 meters. It depends on the floor of your optics.
No,
And-
yeah, you said that about the auto level, but what about the theodolite? Same as the auto
Oh.
level then?
Yeah, it's a function of how easily can you read the markings on your range.
Yeah. I think that 100 and 200 meters is really rich. I'm thinking between 50 and 75, but either way, your answer is the same as the auto level. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. I mean, as far as working ranges in using range poles where you're reading the markings on the range pole, it's going to be the same for a auto level and a theodolite, using basically the same fluoroscope and the accuracy of the compensator.
So why is a theodolite better for long distance then, do you think?
We didn't say it was better for long distance.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the geodetics instrument of choice.
Well, it is, because you can.
Well, then
do
the
elevation.
question stands. Why is it better?
No, but you're not, because you can measure vertical angles. You can tilt the scope on a theodolite that you can't do with an auto level.
Yeah, that's just for getting more extreme
If you're going
elevation.
up a hill, suppose you
Yeah.
suppose you're going up a hill and you want to establish accurate heights. With a theodolite, you can tilt the scope up to a mark up on the hill and do your distances.
Right. Yeah, just for more extreme elevation changes. But in the end, it's basically the same tool, except it has that function to be able to help through more extreme elevation changes.
I wouldn't say it's basically the same tool. They're totally different.
And
They can do the
how do you
same
think they're
thing.
totally different?
Because you can measure, you can tilt the scope, you can measure vertical and horizontal angles.
Yeah, we
and
went
you can
through
do
that.
Distance. Right.
We already agreed that the working distance of the instrument is the same as the auto level, though.
But the auto level is just a subset of the capability of what a theodolite can do for you.
Oh, I tend to think they're pretty much the same, except for the theodolite can do a little bit more extreme elevation changes.
No. You can measure precise angles. You can measure precise angles with the.
But why
theodolite.
do you measure those precise angles? For going up hills and shit, mountains and stuff, right?
You can set markers at precise right angles to one another, or at 60 degrees to one another.
Sure. You can do that with an auto level too. You can swing it around.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
You can't swing an auto level around?
You can, but you have a very crude set of markings on the auto level. The best you can set an angle on an auto level might be to within a half a degree in the horizontal plane with a
but you're only concerned about the horizontal plane, aren't you?
With my theodolite, I can set horizontal angles to within 1 arcsecond. That's 3,060 times better than a auto level.
Well, an auto level just sets that horizontal plane.
That's true. But like if you have two objects in the distance and you want to know from your perspective the angle between them, the best you can do with an auto level might be a half a degree. The graduations on the base of an auto level is typically in 1 degree markings. So maybe you could go between 2 markings to get a half a degree. With my theodolite, I can get it to within 1
Yeah, but
second.
you don't measure angles with an auto level, George.
Say what?
You don't measure angles with an auto level, do you?
Agreed. I agreed, but you can to within a degree.
Yeah, but you don't.
That's what I'm trying to tell your friend here.
No, I don't think you are.
Yes, I am.
No, the auto level is a different tool.
Yes, that's what I've been telling him. We're in agreement.
One does
there.
angles. I think he knows that. I think he understands that.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to cause confusion. I'm just saying, basically, when it comes to measuring the horizontal plane, there's really no difference between these tools. Yeah, I understand.
There's a huge difference.
The auto level is much more accurate at establishing elevation changes than a theodolite.
There's a huge difference between a theodolite and an auto level when it comes to measuring angles in the horizontal plane. Huge difference. It's a factor of over 3,000.
Yeah, one of them measures angles and the other one doesn't. That's the major difference. One of them just deals in elevation. The other one does angles.
Now, I wasn't saying there wasn't a difference. I was saying for what the auto level does, the theodolite does no better in that function. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
they're equivalent.
No, they're not equivalent at all.
Yes, they are.
No, they're
yes,
not.
They are. Very much so. I have both sets of instruments, and the theodolite can very easily set a horizontal every bit as accurate as an auto level.
Okay, brilliant. So that's what you're saying then. In the tools that set elevations, or is it horizontals?
I just said for horizontal. If I want to set a horizontal to the Earth going out at 90 degrees from the zenith, the theodolite, an accurate theodolite, is a good.
Yeah, you're breaking up. It's a pity his mic's shit. But I have to point out again. The auto level establishes a horizontal plane. If you don't believe us, I've got a phone call that I had, and I think it's on the website, about the auto level, where I phoned up the company, and the guy in the shop said that the auto level for measuring elevation changes and a horizontal is the most accurate tool, far more accurate than any theodolite, any £1,000 total station. Much better than any of those, because it only has one job to do, and that's establish that horizontal plane. It's far more accurate at doing that than any other tool. Well, I say any other tool. A water level is more accurate. But we're talking about actual optical devices here at the minute with George. Up there, George. Can I just get this as a scale, right? If we were to say which is the best and least accurate tool for establishing a horizontal?
A laser level.
Okay, well, that's
No,
one of the
laser
tools, right?
level's
Wait,
the
wait, whoa,
worst.
George, please. Right, we've got a laser level, we've got an auto level, we've got a theodolite, and we have a water level, right?
Hi, by the way.
All right, right, Rob. The 4 different tools, right, George? So for establishing a horizontal, which is the least accurate?
Laser.
Laser level.
Right.
Laser.
Okay, what is the most accurate?
Theodolite.
Water level.
Theodolite and auto level. Theodolite and
A theodolite and an auto level top. Well, where's the water level then? For horizontal.
You can't establish a horizontal with an auto or with a water level.
Okay, so you put that as the
But that's
worst
what
then. George, you put that as the worst tool for establishing a horizontal, right?
Yeah, I do that. But it's probably the most accurate tool for determining elevations.
That's
but
where
not
we're going to go
horizontal.
next, George. Right? So let's go for establishing a level. Right? Same 4 tools again.
Yep.
Which is the least accurate?
Now, that would depend upon the distance in which you want to do. For close in, I would say the best tool would be your auto level and your theodolite. But if you're going on beyond, say, several hundred meters, your water level is going to be the best. If it has a micrometer, then, if it's a real precision piece of equipment.
So, there you heard it from George. For what it's worth, after you've just heard him bullshitting for ages, the water level is more accurate for establishing a level over a longer distance. The most accurate for shorter distances is an auto level. But an auto level does establish a horizontal plane as well. So that's good for establishing a horizontal and a level, apparently. Right, so say that again then. What's the least accurate for short distance then? We'll do that, right? What's the least accurate for doing a level over short distances?
A laser level is just totally out of the question on something like this, okay? Well, let's forget
Laser levels are no
They're
good.
just too crude. They're just for construction. Between the theodolite and I would say your auto level and your theodolite is better unless you have some way of having a water level where you could have a micrometer adjustment. I don't know how good the very best water levels are. I've never played with a water level with adjustment. I don't.
Right.
To
Well,
me,
did you flip the switch?
Yeah.
Did you? Because you had those tools as the best for setting a horizontal, and you say the most accurate for setting a level as well.
Close in.
So
but distance, your best for setting a horizontal is the theodolite and auto level. But the best for setting elevations would be your water level.
Right.
I was just thinking about something. Was it George the other time with a water level, and then you took a 6 foot or an 8 foot spirit level and put it on that beam as you got to the end, in the middle it would show level, and at the ends it would show off level. Was that George that said that the other day?
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So I just got thinking about something, because there's a water level that can be accurate to, what is it, 50 thou of an inch over 200 meters. So, and they use this stuff for like machine tables and stuff like that to make sure they're perfectly level. Like, I'm wondering, George, why would they use this to make sure their table is perfectly level if they?
That's fine. That's fine for short work. You cannot move a spirit level. You cannot move a spirit level over, say, 10, 20 feet and have that bubble change much at all.
No, we're talking about 200 meters, George. Not 10 or 20 feet. 200 meters. 200 meters.
Yeah, even at 200 meters.
Hang on. Scalpel, can I help you out here? Can I read a paragraph for you?
Even at 200 meters, just a minute, even at 200 meters, the deviation due to the curve of the Earth is ever so slight that with a spirit level, you're not really going to see that change much. What I'm showing you in that diagram, I'm assuming you're moving your spirit level over a distance of, say, several miles.
What about a master machinist level? Have you ever seen one of them? Like, if you put a piece of paper under this thing, it throws it.
Yeah, you might be able to use that to do over several hundred meters. Yeah.
Can I read something? Scalpel?
Set something up, just a sec. Set something up that's 200 meters, according to flat and level, according to this precise water level instrument, and then double check it with a master level, and then you'd be, what happens if this master level shows, like I said, a piece of paper literally throws it off. So if this master level shows completely level across this 200 meter piece, then you'd be convinced that that piece is completely flat and level.
Yeah, I guess so.
Interesting.
Oh, wait. Just a minute. I might have heard that one. Say that again.
Which part do you want me to say?
Well, okay, this piece is, say, 200 meters long. What is this? This is a straight piece, you're saying?
Let's say it's an I-beam.
Okay, well, yeah, I-beams are going to have tolerances, but let's assume you have a perfect I-beam, okay?
Yes.
Say it's
and you
perfect.
make that
it's perfectly straight. The surface is perfectly straight. If you sight down the surface of this thing, there'd be no deviation from end to end. Okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
And then you level it with this precise water level.
You go to the middle. You go to the middle and you level this I-beam. You go to the level with your machinist level. You level so that the bubble are equivalently the bubbles in the center. Okay?
Sure.
Right? Now what?
Then you check it with the precise water level from the ends. I believe it'll still show perfectly level.
Well,
can I say something now?
That's different than what you said the other day, though, George.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You're using it differently now. If you set this beam perfectly level using your machinist level in the center, you have this perfect I-beam. Now you take an auto level that is, say, a 200 meter auto level. You set
No, not an auto level, George. A water level.
I'm sorry, water level. You take this 200 meter water level. You set it at the ends of your beam. You adjust the water level at the left end so that the micrometer is at the same height as the surface of your beam, and then you go to the right end with the other end of your water level, and you see that it's exactly at the same height. Fine. That's going to be the same whether you're on a globe Earth or a flat Earth. They're going to register the same.
Well, I would have to.
Okay, so what we've just done there, Gods has took him through a bit where they say the same, and he says that means the same result on two different models. with the same result, which may seem like they are actually the same thing, but apparently not. Apparently they're different, but they would both have the same answer. That's that pesky thing of reasoning, and things which are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. It's just an axiom, standard axiom, probably one of the first axioms, really. Axiom 1. Which would suggest, if you went along with the axiom, that they would be the same thing, but George doesn't obviously think that they're the same thing.
I would happen to agree with you that it should be the same regardless. But it seems to me like, unless there's a huge misunderstanding, you were saying something different 2 days ago.
No. Now, if you take a spirit level, remember, you leveled that beam at the center of the beam. Now, you take and you move that machinist's spirit level along the beam as you go towards the right end or the left end, then it's going to register different. It's going to show that either end is higher than the middle.
Yes, this is okay, that is what you said the other day, and I would disagree with
geometry
that. Okay, well, I'll have to figure out maybe a test.
Basic geometry. I called you a flat earther. My name's insisting that your flat earth geometry will work.
I'm familiar with the bubble, Morty. I also dabble in precision, and if you think you can even approach the standing caveman eyeball in a bubble of air, you're the reason this species is a failure, and it makes me angry.
Go ahead, Rob.
Did he say a five-sided square?
I just wanted to read something real quick on the water level with the micrometer. It's 1/100th of a millimeter is its accuracy.
1/100th of a millimeter. Okay, that's 10 microns. Okay.
Okay, so the communicating water level 77 is based on the law of communicating vessels. George, do you know what the law of communicating vessels is? Do you think that's just like an idea or a theory? Or do you think
I have no
it's
idea. I've never heard that term. I've never heard that term before. So
Okay, well, this is a Swiss-made communicating water level 77.
I don't know what that means. I'd have to study it to see what this thing is. So what's your point?
Water level. It's a water level for creating a horizontal plane of reference.
No, it doesn't establish a horizontal plane of reference.
Well, yes, it does. That's what it does.
Okay, the
Why would you say it doesn't?
Okay, just a minute. The horizontal plane of reference that you get with an auto level is...
No, I said a water level.
Well, you shut
I said
up.
a water level.
Yes, water
So why are you talking about an auto level?
Because I'm tired. Jesus. Sometimes I get a little tongue-tied, all right? Give me a break. I've been on here.
All right, well, it's not Jesus' fault.
Yeah, see, this is the sort of time when we knew to play with kid gloves with George. At these times, he admits that, you know, he's tired, he's getting, and he makes mistakes in his thought.
You don't have to swear it. Anyways.
Well, you're criticizing me because sometimes I misspeak.
Okay. I just want you to check out the law of communicating vessels.
Rob, to be fair, he has been in here for hours today. So
hold on a minute.
I just got here. I missed you guys. I got a new headset today. I'm back.
Will you let me finish or not?
Yeah, sorry, George.
Okay, on your water level, on this precision Swiss-made water level, if you were to take the two ends and you want to establish a horizontal plane, if you drew a line between the two ends, that horizontal plane is established for the center of the water level. It's not.
So like So you would pin one side, right? You like pin it. So you got your mark at one of your vessels, right? And then you could take that other vessel wherever you want, right? Because see, the this communicating this tool consists of 2 measuring columns, a depth micrometer, and a connecting hose. The length of the hose to be defined by the user. I've posted a picture in the live chat just so you can read along with me if you wanted to. Yeah, the connecting hose, the length is defined by the user. Right?
That's
so
fine.
let's just say I have.
Hold on a minute. Got it.
Yeah, I'm listening.
So you take your 2 vessels. Say one is A, one is B. You make your mark at A. You move B around to wherever you want. You mark at B. Okay. Now you draw a line between A and B, between those 2 marks.
Yeah, it's a straight line.
Oh, you shut up.
That's a straight line.
Yes, you're drawing a straight line.
I'm just making sure I'm following along. I'm tracking with you, Sally. Don't worry.
I'm gonna get out of here if you're talking over me.
Keep going. Sorry.
Now, that line, that straight line that you've drawn between A and B on the 2 ends or the 2 vessels of this water level, that horizontal is only valid for the point that's midpoint between A and B.
See, now, again, George stating with the auto level, it's only horizontal at the midpoint between A and B, which is where the tool is. But the horizontal obviously extends outwards to the foresight and the backside. But he thinks it's just at one point. This is what Rumpus did to George, I think. Horizontal at a point. It's ridiculous. There's no such thing. Yet this is where they took George. And they left George on his own to do this. He got no help from any of them. They're all too scared to sit back. Even Jesse Kozlowski did a Jesse Kozlowski. They left this poor, frail man to shoulder. He was like Atlas. It's like carrying the globe round all on his own, trying to solve the horizontal paradox.
It's only valid for that point. That is not the same horizontal as you would get at A or at B, but it's only valid for the center, the midpoint between the 2 vessels.
What?
Yes.
Yeah, that's weird.
Doesn't make any sense.
You need. No, the water level doesn't care about the earth.
Yes, it does.
Why would you have micrometers on bits that are like both as far away from the bit that you're saying you want? What's that about, George?
So that you can precisely determine the heights or the elevations.
No, it's for like.
Yes, it is.
It's for measuring and leveling machine beds.
Yes.
Like
you
equipment.
Want to make sure.
Yeah.
You want to make sure. You want to make sure. Hey, stop it! Stop it! You want to make sure.
Come on, George.
The machine bed.
You gotta let us have a turn too, man.
You want to make sure that every point on that bed is at the same elevation. That's what you mean that the bed is
the
level.
Same horizontal, George. Do you not understand about the straight lines?
No, it's not the same horizontal.
He can't do it, man. He can't do it.
I think you might want to look into that, George, or at least try and...
Sugar cookie.
Sugar cookie ain't even saying shit.
Say what?
I gotta go plug my phone in. I'm gonna be here still though.
You do seem to get really het up, George, about this. Like you're defending it.
Because you guys are talking over me. You are.
No, man. I was just following along with you, George. I was making sure that we were on the same page.
Rob is not adhering to the agreement that we made. That's what's pissing me off.
All right.
Well, Rob's come in late.
I was trying to get a word in edgewise.
Rob.
No, I missed the beginning there.
Rob wasn't here. Yeah, Rob, we have a special.
My bad. I already have a problem with talking over people, so I should be given a little bit of grace, just a little bit. I'm sorry, Scalpel.
Listen, we made a special deal with George today that he gets to finish his stuff. Like when he says something, we let him finish. So
Like
he can't be mocked.
When we're talking, if
I'm sorry,
George starts talking, you just have to stop. Because if you carry on, then George says you're over talking him. And you just have to listen to that, because that's the agreement that we've made today.
Okay, if that's, I can understand if that's part of the agreement. I won't cut anybody off.
Well, you can do it with us, Rob. That's all right. We don't give a shit. We're used to it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks, Bev. I'm still kicking around, don't worry. I just got to go plug my phone.
Oh, I think he's gone out for 5 minutes, I think he said.
Was that a hashtag thank you, Bev? Or was that just a thank you, Bev? Just wondering.
No, mine are always legit.
I think the hashtags are legit, too.
Yeah, George has stepped out for 5 minutes now anyway, so we can... All the pressure's off. We can all just talk to each other with no problems like we used to.
I'm still wanting to know. I want to physicalize these marks, his lines, but the horizontals are intersecting.
No, I feel like he doesn't understand. Like they designed this water level that has high precision to level out machinery tables and whatnot, to be able to go around pieces of machinery, over top of them, underneath them, all these other things. If it was like, if it's not level the way everybody normally understands level, then it's not a practical tool to use in that application. You want the machine to be level, like fucking level. Spirit level.
Wouldn't that be the most accurate tool for establishing the curve? I mean, look at how fucking exact it is. Like, why do they do that? Why would they use that tool for machine beds if what they actually wanted was the most accurate fucking curve? And why has nobody ever decided to use that for getting the curvature of the fucking Earth? They're crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing.
They just haven't worked it out, the problems yet.
Well, I mean, I see a possibilities here, right? Because if the curvature of the Earth is out there to get fucking done, well, this is the way to do it. We could be the guys. I mean, how much money would we make? I mean, we're not flat earthers. And how much difference would it make measuring a curve in the water level?
You still got the quadratic function of the quadratic.
Shit, yeah, the you can't get around that. Nah. Still impossible, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they use that to prove the curve then, these water levels? They should be like, oh, Bev, good idea. Thanks for mentioning the water level. Now we can use it to show curve.
You got to get around that quadratic function, like Buster just said.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I thought you'd stepped out for a bit.
Yes, you can. You could use the water level to prove or disprove a curve the way I told you to do it. Okay, I'll tell you real quick. Is you take, you establish a water level, say a kilometer, and you have several risers. You have the two end risers, and say you have 2, 3 risers in the center, as many as you want between the two ends, okay? You set your water level up, then you take a theodolite or take an auto level and go to, say, the left end and sight the right end with towards the, let's say the left end is A, the right end is B. So you, after you have your water level set up, all these different risers, you take your auto level to end A and you sight towards end B, and you look to see if all the water heights in each of the risers is in line with the crosshair from the auto level. If they're all in line with the crosshair from the auto level, you have a flat Earth. If they're not all in line with the crosshair, it's a curved Earth. And I predict that what you will see when you set an auto level at A and sight towards B, you're going to see that the water heights in each of the risers as you move towards B falls further and further below your horizontal line.
What if you can't see them to reference anything?
Well, then you're screwed.
Well, then you can't prove it.
There is a way you could do it. All right. Say at each riser.
Wait a minute, George. How would you measure that?
What do you mean measure it?
Well,
I
you
just told you.
with
you
a measuring rod.
Or you could use a measuring rod too. You could set up a measuring rod next to your riser.
Wouldn't that be a difference in elevation though? Because you're using an auto level.
No.
And a drop from the horizontal is a measured change in the vertical, right?
It's drop from horizontal established at point A. Yes, you could measure it with a measuring rod.
So that would be an elevation change.
No, it's not an elevation change. Not on
that's what an auto level does.
No.
Yeah, it is. You measure an elevation change.
Only if you do a differential leveling technique.
That's
what, an auto level.
Yeah, but that's what you do. Foresight and backsight.
You're not listening. If you set your auto level and sight towards from A and sight towards B, you're not doing a backsight and a foresight. You're just doing a foresight. You're just looking down to the end of B, and that's different.
But a backsight and a foresight means that you move your auto level.
You're not moving your auto level. You set it at A and leave it at A and sight towards B, and then look at each of the water heights in your risers.
Usually, George, when you're doing differential leveling, the backsight is looking in that direction. George, don't get angry. George, stop shouting, please.
You are not doing differential leveling in this test.
Why not?
Because differential leveling will follow the curve of the Earth.
So, yeah, but let's say we have another water level going in the opposite direction. So the backsight has a water level going off in that direction. And then when we turn round our auto level, just turn it around through 180 degrees, then we've got our foresight. Because that's what it is, foresight and backsight.
Yes, what about double riding? Whenever you do a backsight and a foresight, you remove the curvature of the Earth.
George, if you've got a water level going in... Did you hear that?
Yes, removing.
You can remove the curvature of the Earth by turning an auto level around.
Yes, and so George can remove two things. Can remove curvature and can remove refraction at will. So this is just magic.
Yeah, I listen to it again. 80 degrees, then we've got our foresight. Because that's what it is, foresight and backsight.
Yes, what about double riding? Whenever you do a backsight and a foresight, you remove the curvature of the Earth.
George, if you've got a water level... Again.
Whenever you do a backsight and a foresight, you remove the curvature of the Earth.
Whenever you do a backsight and a foresight, you remove the curvature of the Earth. Mentally, right? All you have to do is just turn an auto level around and then it's gone. Take it away, minus Earth curvature by turning an auto level through 180 degrees. Listen to it again. So good. And this is George. I mean, Jesse Kozlowski and the other role-playing surveyor that may or probably doesn't live in Maine. They've gone. They've left the arena. George is the next best thing they have, and now George is gone. Rest his soul. But this is what you came up with. It's foresight and backsight.
Yes,
what about
and when
double
you do
riding?
that, whenever you do a backsight and a foresight, you remove the curvature of the Earth.
George, if you've got a water level going in each direction. Sorry, Darren. You'll have to show us, Darren. No, I've never studied the geometry of differential leveling from the perspective of a globe model. You'll have to run us through it. Perhaps get Blue Marble to do a thing. We'll leave it up to you, Darren. Hopefully you can solve the horizontal paradox. Finish George's legacy. Sort out the equipotential angle of adjustment. Perhaps you may want to try it with the equipotential angle of adjustment. Differential leveling. I'm going to have to get that as a... Have you, Darren? Because I didn't even know there was any geometry of differential leveling from the globe perspective. There you go. Let's check that one out.
What does it mean from globe perspective? So,
from the perspective of the globe model.
But surveyors are at the same spot.
I don't even know what the geometry of differential leveling is. I know that differential leveling in reality works upon Euclidean geometry and parallel horizontals, and you measure the difference between the two levels. That's how it works in reality. I've never studied that. Oh, don't know, Darren. Never done that. Darren has studied it. Well done, Darren. You perhaps are the person. This may be the guy that we're looking for. Can you help George and his legacy? Help finish it. I don't know whether you've got any of the stuff he did beforehand. We will be able to work you through it, Darren, over these next few days. That's the idea of this, to lift you up.
I don't
Then
care
you are
what
going to
have.
measure a drop in
I don't
each
care what you have.
direction.
The instant you
Why
move,
can
your
George
auto
not
level.
see this, guys? It's like...
the instant you move your auto level to do a backsight and foresight, you have
don't
removed the
move it
curvature
to
of
do
the
a
Earth.
backsight and a foresight, George. Every time you move your auto level, you do a backsight and a foresight.
And you remove the curvature of the Earth.
No, you don't.
Yes, you do. Most
By
certainly you
turning
do.
an auto level 180 degrees, you remove the curvature of the Earth.
Correct.
That sounds fantastic, George.
It isn't fantastic because the Earth is symmetrical about your position of the auto level. So you have the same drop in the backsight as you have in the foresight, and when you do a differential leveling, they subtract out.
That's a double drop, George.
No, it's not a double drop. It's equal drops in both directions, and when you do your backsight, foresight, they subtract out.
Oh. They're equal drops at either side, according to George, and they cancel out whenever you turn an auto level around. But we say, we've always called that the double drop from the hump, obviously. Is that what you would call, Darren? Is that your geometry? Where when you set out the auto level, there's a drop on that side and a drop on that side, the two drops. And when you add the two drops together, they cancel each other out to get rid of curvature of the Earth, apparently, according to George. It's important, though, asking this is. Darren's got to build on this. This is George's legacy. I bet this is quite new to people like this from on the dogmatic globe. I bet they were unaware that by turning an auto level around, you can completely get rid of Earth curve. Doesn't exist. If you've got an auto level that can turn around, there will be no Earth curve. It just disappears.
But that would kill their model. So it is impossible. They cannot do that.
It is globe. It is. It's reality. The real globe. George gets mixed up between the two. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure at this stage George was going a bit senile. And I'm pretty sure that these guys played on him. Blue Marble and Rumpus. It's a bit cruel, but he wanted to come and get it out over here. Obviously, he couldn't talk to Blue Marble. And like Darren, I don't think Darren can talk to the Blue Marble scientists either about it. So Darren might have to come over here and vocalize his ideas about this, just like George did. Hopefully. Well, hopefully Darren can go and help Blue Marble set up a differential leveling on the globe. To redo that one again. Because that's the one we'll be going over on Monday. It's rather a large video. I'm not so sure. Have you ever done any surveying, George?
Oh, Bill.
No, I'm being serious, George. Have you ever done any surveying?
That's why plane surveyors never need to correct for the curvature of the
Earth.
George, when you do a different...
Please.
Well, you're interrupting.
You just asked me.
You're interrupting. You're interrupting. Stop interrupting. Whenever you do a backsite and a foresight in plane surveying, that's
Remember,
why
I just asked him. Remember, I've just asked George whether he did any surveying. And he's now doing this interrupting thing. Stop interrupting.
Correct for the curvature of the Earth, because a backsite and a foresight drops off the curvature of the Earth. Done.
Right. Have you ever done any surveying, differential leveling?
I just told you. Yes. Y-E.
Okay, so you realise that all you're doing is just turning the auto level.
What you're doing is
scope.
the scope 180 degrees, and that drops off the curvature of the Earth.
Wow. That sounds good.
Same
So
thing
that
with the theodolite.
So that's like flicking that switch, the curvature switch, on-off switch.
You don't have a curvature switch on an auto.
I know, but you can just turn it around. You just sort of move the scope a bit and you can have the same effect, can't you, as the curvature on-off switch?
You don't have an on-off switch, and what I'm saying...
I mean, in the theodolite.
Bell, yes. If you spin...
Can he finish what he was about to say?
If you spin the scope of an 180 degrees and you sight range poles equidistant from the auto level, so that you don't have any unbalanced distances between the range poles on a foresight and backside, the Earth's curvature drops off.
George, have you ever done a two-peg test?
Mm-hmm. Many times to calibrate my auto level.
Right, so you realise that they're not the same distance, they're offset, right?
Well, you can start the easiest way to do the two-peg test, in principle, yes, Beth. But the easiest way to
Isn't that what you just said? That negates the curvature. So in order to do your two-peg test, to check it, you do the thing that puts the curvature there.
No, you don't.
Okay. So if you keep the measuring rod spaced equally, you can negate the curvature of the Earth. Yet when you do the two-peg test, you purposely offset them. You have one really close to the auto level and the other one further away from the auto level. Hence not equal distances, which George says would add curvature, not negate the curvature. So the very process that you use to check the horizontal for the tool according to George, would add curvature into it and invalidate your calibration check. To check that the tool is in calibration, you would make sure that it looked like it wasn't within calibration. According to George, it gets very tricky. I'm not expecting Darren to be fully up to speed on this just yet. So we're hoping Darren can learn from George, because we're hoping, fingers crossed, Darren can help George find his legacy and rest in peace. Wait, you offset them, don't you?
Several ways. There's several ways to do a two-peg test. The easiest way to do a two-peg test is you set your auto level up and you set two range poles equidistant from the auto level. You do a back sight and make a mark on range pole or read the reading. Then you do a foresight and read or make a mark on the range pole in the 180 degrees away. Those 2 points now, you're guaranteed at the same elevation. Now you take your auto level and say you go to the left range pole and you set your auto level up, say 10 feet away, and you sight the mark with your range pole. Then you flip the scope 180, rotate it 180 degrees, and you sight the mark on the far range pole to see if the auto crosshairs are hitting the mark that you establish. If it doesn't, then you adjust the auto compensator so that the mark is halfway in between, so that the crosshairs are halfway in between the deviation between where it's sighting and what the mark on the pole is. Then you know you're dialed in.
So it shows that the... Sorry about that, Darren. I know we tried to, you'll have to play that back again just to work out what George was saying there, Darren. But I mean, no doubt you've got your own way of getting around the negation of the curvature whilst doing a calibration check to make sure that it's horizontal. The marks are parallel or the same, right?
Parallel horizontals, yeah.
Right, George, with the two peg test, just to make sure it's working and it's all exactly horizontal.
It's nothing to do with horizontal.
The auto level, yeah, of course it is.
Yes, when you move the out, let's say you have your two. Let's say you have your two pegs, A and B. Say they're
George, there's no need for you to explain. We've already explained that to everybody already. Like I'm sure we can do it much better than you can.
Say 10 feet away from one of the pegs after you establish two marks on the two pegs at the same elevation. You have taken out the Earth's curvature at 10 feet away. The Earth's curvature is ever so slight that it's not
10 feet away.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh my God, dude.
So you do whatever you did before, but there's no curvature there. So that's all. That's fancy, that, George. Yeah.
That's not a differential leveling. When you mark,
that's
move
a two
your
peg
auto
test,
level,
George.
It is when you
out doing your daily. Uh-oh. Don't know what that is. Hopefully the new video editor won't work.
Keep talking over me. I'm out of here.
I can't hear what you're saying, George, so I don't know whether you're talking or not.
He bounced.
Is he gone? I'm not surprised.
Yeah, he's gone.
That was pretty fucking disturbing, that, to know that George, I mean, I don't know if anybody listening or whatever, but George has never done any surveying ever. He's never done any differential surveying leveling. He hasn't got a clue.
He's just trying to rectify their problems and is doing even worse than no longer. I mean, I'm even at a loss for words, even how to describe it. You want to establish a line, but the only thing you can do is look down it, and if you can't see it, you're screwed. I mean, is that how things work nowadays?
Damn. Yeah.
No, he's gone. I could post my picture. Sorry, Buster.
That's all right.
No,
Well,
no,
that was good.
Come on.
I'm glad he came back for that, right? I'm still recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad he came back, and hopefully he'll come back again. But like I say, he's told us as much as we can know, right? George doesn't really know anything about anything. And what he does know is about his model.
If you enjoyed the...
there you go. I have to come back to this Discord. That's George. God rest his soul. He came to do that. See, we've got Darren in the chat. Look at this.
Darren is telling stories in live chat.
Got to run. Okay, so we're into thought experiments. So he's got to run. Have a great day, guys, and have a think. I don't know how much other stuff Darren's been posted in the chat. Really keen to see an actual sensible discussion one day. Thought experiment. This is for everyone, right? That Darren. Preamble, hopefully, for him to come and finish off Georgie's legacy. I think that's what Darren's come here for. He's practicing. So, thought experiment. Hold out your finger at arm's length. You don't actually have to do it. It's a thought experiment. Look around your room. Your fingertip would obscure a coin. Look outside. It might obscure the wheel of a car. Remember, it's just a thought experiment. Look skyward, and it will obscure the sun. What's the same about all of these observations? The thought observations. Okay, next one. Anybody else got any thought experiment? You've heard me go over it. Anybody else? What's the same about all of these observations? Anyone?
They have to be careful observations. Careful thought observations.
Thought observations. I like it. Next one. Right, here we go. Next one. Imagine a leveling rod with 1 millimeter markings observed at 10 meters. Another thought observation. An imagined observation. Now a larger rod. Oh, who's did that? Now a larger rod with 10 millimeter markings at 100 meters. Next, have you got that one? Next, a much larger rod with 100 millimeter markings. That's 10 millimeters again, isn't it? Oh no, sorry, 10 centimeter markings at 1 kilometer. 10 centimeters at 1 kilometer. Does that work? I think that's how it works.
I would say that this is out of range already. So
yeah, definitely a kilometer. And like if he's admitting that he can only see 10 millimeters at 100 meters, then George said that was the starting range that he was using, 1 to 200, and Darren's only getting us to imagine a centimeter. But that's like not very accurate. I mean, like you go into like second and third. I don't think we'd do that. But I mean, this is Darren. He's new to this. He might get better. Lastly, a rod with 1 meter markings at 10 kilometers. What's common here? The imagination.
Yeah, nothing else.
And finally, what would you expect to notice if you actually did this last experiment in real life? Well, weren't we just doing it in real life? I was imagining a leveling rod for him. Yeah, I was doing that in real life. I was actually imagining it. I had a bit of a trouble imagining a rod with 1 meter markings at 10 kilometers. That's the sort of thing I need a visual thing. I can't really imagine 10 kilometers. I mean, where do you imagine it? He's not giving us much to go on here, is he?
10 kilometers, it would be behind horizon. So it's very hard to imagine.
Yeah, do you know what we call that? Imagine geometry.
Yes, yes.
It's called imaginometry. We've got all the rules for it and everything. That's good, that. Thank you very much, Darren. And then Realm says, imagine surveyors measuring past 1 kilometer accurately. Just imagine it. So thank you very much, Darren. Thanks for coming. And really, if you need any help, Darren, just pop in for a chat. We're going to be going over some more of George's legacy, his final work, we call it. He came to do it. I mean, it's colloquially known as RBD face, but we like to call it George's legacy. Unfinished. George's unfinished legacy. Sort of like Beethoven's Fifth, but this is George's final work. So on Monday, and maybe even tomorrow, it depends how people are going, because it is quite a long one. It's like a 4-hour video going over the colloquially named RBD face. And then we do have a double rodding with George. So there are two. There's one that George goes over differential leveling on the globe to a much higher degree that what we've just seen. That was a preamble to get Darren. I know he's left, but I mean, he should be coming back tomorrow. Oh, sorry, he should be coming back at some point. He'll be in the chat, I would imagine. Maybe later on in the Discord. If anybody out there from the dogmatic globe side would like to help Darren, I think you might be able to find him over at the Blue Marble Science HQ, Blue Marble Science. And somebody mentioned earlier that Beddy, he's not been around. Why is that? Is that, did I see that Gadget might have banned him? We don't have mods just banning people, do we? Hiding them so we can't see. Because I would really like to have seen what Beddy was going to say about it. And I know I haven't banned him. So do I have to go back and check? Because if I do, I might have to get rid of a few mods. I can't have mods hiding people. The idea of this channel is to add communication for people. So I really want to be able to talk to people. I'd prefer it if none of the mods stopped that conversation from going on in the future. And I'll have to go and have a look through all of the through the names to see who's around. I can't imagine why Betty wouldn't want to be around here talking about the philosophy that we go over. He should be with us actually to go over that. Would be nice to have anybody. In fact, if anybody does want to come in and get involved in any of the stuff that we are doing through the philosophy, very soon I'm going to be working on just purely the lost tools of learning. We'll be going over the trivium to a much higher degree, and we will be setting out arguments that people can use. But these arguments are going to be dangerous. You're not going to be allowed to use them in this arena. These are going to be arguments for people, just everyday people.
Might be too offensive for
this particular arena. Yeah, the Globers, they get too I'd say triggered, but I mean trigger gets overused at the minute. They get angry really, and upset. So yeah, we don't want to be upsetting them anymore, and we don't want to bring on any more things like George. I'm hoping that Rumpus and Blue didn't aid in George's mental breakdown that occurred, because that would be awful. Actually, there's Rumpus was meant to be doing his test soon. It must have been a month after Rumpus said he was going to do his test. He was going to do the thing with SE and Askin as well. I don't know. He's gone missing. Blue Marble. Maybe Blue Marble's not doing enough live streams to bring Rumpus round as his second man. I don't know. Right. Don't know. Has anybody got anything else they'd like to go over, or are we going to end this one early? 11:30. We've been going 3.5 hours. Been going over. Tomorrow, how many people listen to the introduction to Western philosophy today? But we did go over the ontological argument, which was I consider one of the best arguments that anybody in this arena has ever heard and ever is likely to ever hear. But if nobody did it, I'm going to take it. I'm going to add that to one of my arguments for when I start up. Okay, so tomorrow there will be around about 3:30 again. There will be the next introduction to Western philosophy that will then go into the members only, like the one today. Join us then, and tomorrow evening, Free for All Friday. I don't know what we're going to be talking about. Hopefully we might start some of that Georgie stuff, unless somebody comes in and wants to, say anything. So join us then, Free for All Friday. Let me get some Buster songs ready. Anybody got any I know what I'm going to do.
Not especially.
I'm going to do the new one. I'll give you guys it in here. So this is Buster. This is the one that I'm putting out on the Introduction to Western Philosophy. This is going to be my new theme tune. Advanced Simplicity. This is where we're at. And this is what we're all about here. First principles. Nothing too difficult. We go back to the basics and build the arguments from the basics. Anybody can do this. This is all for everyone. We've simplified arguments. We've simplified just about everything we can to make it accessible to everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Join us tomorrow. Both the Introduction to Western Philosophy and Free for All Friday. Join us tomorrow. Buster's going to sing us out. New song.
Let me give you an analogy. Already have the idea in my mind. Existence must be necessary to the idea.
Advanced simplicity takes hold.
The idea in my mind.
You'll find the truth from things of old.
Let me give you an analogy. The idea in my mind. I have an idea in my mind that a triangle exists. The idea in my mind. But the angles of a triangle do not add up to 180 degrees. The idea in my mind. What's the conclusion?
We are on the road, suspending judgment until the truth is known. You will find peace within, in the midst of all these troubled souls.
What's the conclusion? You don't know what a triangle is. Or you're flat out contradicting yourself.
Advanced simplicity takes hold. You'll find the truth from things of old.
Just as it is necessary for a triangle to have 180 degrees, what's the conclusion? The idea in my mind. That is a necessary property of triangularity, triangleness. The idea in my mind. What's the conclusion? Just as it is necessary for a triangle to have 180 degrees, what's the conclusion? That is a necessary property of triangularity, triangleness. The idea in my mind.
We are on the road, suspending judgment until the truth is known. You will find peace within, in the midst of all these troubled souls.
Therefore, the fool is in a self-contradiction. The fool is in a self-contradiction. He violates the principle of non-contradiction.
There's no end game in mind. It's only the truth that we seek to find.
Therefore, the fool.
There's no end game in mind.
He violates the principle of non-contradiction.
It's only the truth that we seek to find.
He simultaneously says, I have an idea of God, and then I don't have an idea of God. Therefore, the fool is in a self-contradiction.
Everyone must see it for themselves. The truth is there for you to find.